make sure you watch health and you watch government first. And I can send you all the links directly if you need to watch it.
Yeah.
It's not going to be online there. Yeah, so some. Well, just follow along with the notes. Or just kind of jot your notes down and just figure out. Yeah, so many stubs aren't posted online until every so like you'll be able to pay attention in committee, like you're focusing on what changes did they make. And when you're taking up the changes, then you're going back to the original one and see what's been added, what's been added. They had it in committee last week, and the main thing they were talking about again was wanting some sort of report back to the legislature on the
somebody else.
I do tend it's good. So they're gonna investigate the other jurisdictions. I think they are. I only just saw it a minute ago, actually, because the notice for the next judicial juvenile issue. And I saw me. Stadium seat. Sit on the seats are the worst. Yeah, I know, 'cause they'll get up. I figured that Judge McMurray and Taylor, they'll have to actually get out.
Yeah, because they're going to need to get up to it.
But I would just be sad that I guess.
I just don't like to be on TV.
It's usually just the first, yeah.
But seats are taken. I guess we can switch it.
Did you notice that they were contemplating lowering it?
So there has been
I guess raising.
It's raised a bit. So there has
The handouts Taylor gave me.
we have more things.
We have one more.
I actually
Do
probably
you
have
have
an
any
extra.
more?
Yeah.
I thought we were enough for the committee, did we not?
So we've added a member. So there's technically 8 members now plus me.
We were thinking you had one already, so we didn't want to like double up.
I do
for
have
you.
one of these reports, yeah.
And this is an updated PowerPoint though, so I can give you the.
It is.
It is updated from the last one you had. If you want another one.
I would.
Yeah, I think it's
I'll
only
keep
like
that for me.
one number has changed.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I've got this big list. Usually 1 to 2 of everything. Yeah, we do it till we won't.
We're ready to go, but we're going to delay just a minute. The IT people are loading the computers, and it's running a little slow for some reason today. So we're going to hold off till we get the computers loaded. Okay, let's call this meeting of the Public Safety Subcommittee on Appropriation to order. And I'd like to ask Representative Val Williams to give us a blessing.
All right. Have I got a time limit, Chairman?
I'd hate to open the door. 'Cause I know how you are.
Let us pray. Oh, my everlasting, thou art eternal God, we thank you once again for being able to assemble here. Keep us mindful of our responsibilities to the citizens of Georgia. Keep us mindful of the feelings of others, and whatever we do or say, let it be to improve overall that we deliver to the citizens. For it is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Okay, first off, I'm gonna call up a representative from Georgia Chiefs of Police. They're not on our schedule, but they're mandated by state law to perform certain training requirements every year, and there's no money in the budget for it, so I would like to give them an opportunity to.
Can it speak from the table? Table.
It's gonna be up and going.
Oh,
in
okay.
just a minute.
Would you mind going to the table? I think they're loading.
Might may take more time for me to sit down than talk, but that would be,
I don't worry about that. I worry about you getting up.
I've got to pick up the ball to drop it, so
Well, I'm in the same age group. I know the drill.
fits right into the drill. Mr. Chairman, and I'll be very, very brief. And I did drop the ball, as you pointed out, just now, or how many times today. But I want to thank you. Give me a very brief minute. My name's Chuck Clay. I represent the Chiefs of Police, and they have a request, and I just wanted to make 2 or 3 points. I have a packet, and I've given the chairman, and I don't know, Chairman, if you want me to provide it, or can you copy and provide members of the committee? You just tell me what's appropriate. But on the front page of this, and I've talked to several of you about it, I want to make two or three very quick points. One, as the chairman said, we're mandated by law. You all created the statute that mandates 60 hours of new chiefs training, 20 hours a year of ongoing training. That has been expanded from 100-something to almost 300 over the same period of time. The number of hours have increased because the demands have increased. You have said we want the best trained with the best training, and the Chiefs of Police is purely statutorily created for one purpose, which is to provide training. Our budget in the past has been a flow through along with the sheriffs under the post budget. And I know this machine seems to be acting up. Should I get further away, or?
Sounds like pilot error to me.
Okay, well, could be the speaker, not the speaker itself,
He used to be in the legislature.
the
So.
human one. But we all have created this. So our budgets are flow through post for us and the sheriffs.
Is it on?
We've had a base of about 400. Last year, based upon the demands, the increase, you all put in the supplemental budget $309,000. Our hope this year was we could convince you all to carry this forward into continuation. To our, disappointment, I understand reality, it was zeroed out. So we're back stuck with that base of 400 plus. We have a request here for 309. Why in the continuation? Well, one, to meet the demands. This all goes to training. But no organization can budget and plan retroactively. So that's why we're asking, one, for a dollar amount, two, to go into continuation. So, God willing, whatever don't rise, you don't have to hear me again. We're not here every year asking for more. We've asked for this amount. You gave it to us last year. We didn't plan to be here at all. But since it was cut out, I would ask you to take a serious look at a fundamental component to what makes law enforcement successful, what makes law enforcement community-based, what makes people trust their leadership in a police academy, how we create the role models, both in terms of character, principle, and also training to provide the very best that we have, so you have departments that are well-trained, well-respected, supported by the community, and in return support their community at the very highest level of standards you expect, I expect, and they expect of themselves. So in a nutshell, I just wanted to be on the record of making a case. This is about us being able to budget out. You've got to start budgeting almost 2 years out to get the level of professional training. And Chairman, you pointed this out. I will reiterate, this is not for fluff salaries. This is not for fancy cars. This goes into the classroom. You have to have equipment, and you have to be able to pay the very best in this country to come in and teach the very best that we have to offer, which is our law enforcement community. With that, I'll hush up.
I'm just glad you opted to go be short.
As somebody once said, Representative Penholster once said, Clay will speak at 60 words a minute, but he can gust up to 500. I'll stay away. Any questions?
But do we have any questions?
Thank you.
I mean, I understand it perfectly, and I don't know how there's an expectation that you do business without any money. I mean, I go to the training just as I'm a retired member of the association, and I know what it costs, and I know what they do, and we've always been supportive of you. So you and the sheriffs both. The sheriff's under the same mandate. They
I'd say the very same thing.
Yep.
This is for both. This
Right.
is for us, but they have the same.
and state law requires you to do it, and then we don't fund it. So
I'll not say a word more.
thank you.
Well, I could come back. Thank you, guys.
Okay, next up, we'd like to call the Department of Community Supervision. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Oh, just introduce yourself and start when ready.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Scott Maurer. I'm the Chief of Staff.
You can follow the track sheet.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
For the Chief of Staff for Department of Community Supervision. With me today also is Olivia Duke, our Chief Financial Officer.
She used to work for me many, many years ago.
We've trained her very, very well.
She's done, she got off to a good start.
Yeah.
So,
I would certainly agree with that, sir. So I'm honored to represent the men and women of DCS who each day supervise tens of thousands of Georgians, holding them accountable while supporting successful reentry. I do believe that arguably Department of Community Supervision is one of the most cost-effective public safety investments the state can make while we're reducing recidivism, protecting communities, and reserving precious prison space for the most serious offenders. And so on behalf of those teammates, my teammates, Commissioner Nail, I want to thank this committee for your continued support over the years. I know several of you have been on ride-alongs, and so you have seen firsthand the dedication that our staff have to protecting communities. And so, for those of you that may not have, we are certainly always open to hosting you in the field on a ride-along. So with that, I'll turn to the budget items, and we're on page 18.2.6 of the tracking sheet. And so the first item on there is increased funds for rent in 3 of our judicial circuits, West Georgia, Ogeechee, and the Mountain Circuit. And so I know that as a routine budget process every year, we go through lease negotiations. And one of the things that we do, as well as many other agencies do, is take into consideration a typical rent escalation over the course of time. And so usually we escalate, or we consider that to be about between 2 and 4% in rent increases as we renegotiate leases. And so last year, for example, we renegotiated about 15 leases, and we'll do another 16 this year. However, these 3 particular offices, the escalation in rent projected based on the State Properties Commission market analysis is well above 2 or 3%. It's more like 100 to 500% increases in those 3 offices. And so essentially the ask is for $238,900 to cover those increased lease expenses. And at the end of the day, that for us, that's about 2 to 3 positions. And then the second item that we have on
of
our...
course, the truth is, you've closed down most of your offices, haven't you?
So since
most of the-
inception, we've closed 55 offices. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
most of the employees are using their vehicles as their office now.
That's correct. And they do, so for example, in the West Georgia Circuit, what we'll do there, our plan there is to reduce the square footage because we have a day reporting center there, which is extremely important. And it's always at capacity, so we'll reduce our square footage, make those officers virtual, but they still have hotel space to go to when they need to go to an office. So it's not like they don't have an office to go to utilize office space. But yes, sir, you're correct. We have closed since the inception of DCS 55 of our leased offices.
So this would cover the increase, this $238,900?
It's a conservative amount to cover it, but yes, it'll cover the increases for those 3 offices.
Are your officers still riding double?
Yes, sir.
To the car?
Yes, sir. 2 officers to a vehicle, and we did that because if it was just 1 officer per 1 vehicle, there would be a lot of downtime if that vehicle is not being utilized. It's not like our vehicles are being utilized on a patrol like a typical law enforcement office would, and so it just makes more financial sense for it to be 2 officers to 1 vehicle.
It's a pretty good safety catch, too.
Yes, sir. When they ride together, yes, sir.
Going around checking on convicted felons. And,
Yes, sir.
yep. Okay.
The second item on here is the law enforcement defined contribution. That is on line 18.1.3 and 18.2.3. And that's for $877,196 to cover the calculation for those GSEPS employees that are eligible for the law enforcement retirement increase. And then the last four things that are on our on that slide are all statewide spreads that all agencies have.
And I'll tell everybody, those statewide items on the tracking sheet, you don't have to go into that. We all understand what's going on there, so.
Yes, sir.
Any
So that-
questions? Well, you got it easy. I guess I'll have to dig some up.
Well, we're always here if you
Well, I
have-
appreciate it.
Thank you.
I appreciate what you do, and certainly it's a benefit to the state that you keep track on these people and make sure they're accountable for and headed in the right direction and become producing citizens once again. So, thank you.
Thank you.
GMA Homeland Security. I didn't even see you sitting over there. Must have been the reflection, huh?
True. The lighting was just right.
Well, before you get started, I appreciate all you did over the bad weather. I know that was an ordeal for you and all the people in your employ and working at the State Operations Center. That was quite a scare for some people. I don't think it turned out as bad as some of the predictions, but still, particularly up in North Georgia, the ice and snow, I don't think we had as many power lines and trees down as we thought it could be, but it could have been difficult. I was impressed with GDOT too. When I was going home to Savannah, I must have passed 15 convoys of dump trucks with snow blades on the front of them headed this direction. So
They did a phenomenal
good
job.
preparation.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right. Well, good afternoon. It's always great to be here and to be with you, Mr. Chairman, and all the members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to present our proposed 2027 budget today. As mentioned in our last hearing, GMA is somewhat unique among state agencies in that approximately 98% of our funding comes from federal grants. While this creates opportunities to leverage federal dollars, it also means that state funds are critical to meeting required matches and maintaining compliance when federal requirements change. And we'll get into that in just a second. Over the past year, changes to federal grant structures have created new challenges that require careful planning and prioritization. This budget ensures continued compliance with federal requirements, supports critical public safety infrastructure, and strengthens protection efforts for Georgia communities. On page 8, the fourth line, 27.8.4, allows Georgia to meet federal matching requirements for the Emergency Management Performance Grants. $1.429 million covers the state match requirement for the first quarter of state fiscal year 2027, which corresponds to the final quarter of federal fiscal year 2026. Now, going back to what I just mentioned about the federal guidelines changing, just today I've learned that FEMA is now talking about taking that period of performance back to a 3-year period of performance. I've reached out to OPB today. We're having the conversations on what necessary changes that will be needed. This proposed budget includes a $1 million transfer from GBI to GMA Homeland Security to support the gang case management support system. In fiscal year 23 and 24, GMA Homeland Security was originally appropriated a similar amount and successfully operated this system. This system has proven to be highly beneficial to local law enforcement programs, strengthening coordination and case management at the local level. And last, our final item is a $1 million transfer from the Department of Public Safety to GMA Homeland Security for the Protection of Communities Grant Program. These funds would be administered alongside the federal nonprofit security grant program, allowing the state to coordinate resources and strengthen security for at-risk communities across Georgia. And with that completes my presentation.
What's about the average size of those grants?
On the community protection or on the nonprofit security grant?
Community protection.
I don't know on that one. What I found out earlier is I don't think there's a cap on it, so it'll be a competitive grant process for that, and I guess it will be determined by how many put in for it and how much is awarded in each case to expend the funds.
Any questions? How far along are we? And I know I asked you this in supplemental with the federal fund for lien. Are they still, is it still backlogged or?
It is. We're moving along. We think we're on the backside of that hump. Total, and keep in mind, this is a capture of a moment in time, but we've paid out about 75% of those funds that have been obligated. But you just have to remember that changes as more projects are obligated or as they're revised within that project. But we're seeing funds come out more timely than in the past, so we're hoping to see continued improvement in that area.
Chairman Saints?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, you mentioned the federal match changes. Is there, for the 1.4 million, is there one equation that changes that federal match? I'm guessing we're having to put more per dollar. Is there a ratio?
It's not more per dollar. What happened is originally most of the federal grants ran on what was called a 3-year period of performance. So you were awarded the money, and then you essentially had 3 years to spend it. Always wasn't 3 years. Usually by the time you were awarded it, in reality, you had about 2 years to spend it. What happened is FEMA made changes to that process, and they went from 3 years to 1 year. So what happened is you took all the EMP grant money, so 24 and 25, and instead of being able to spend those over multiple years, we were going to have to spend those in 1 year. So now your match went up because the amount of money that you had to spend within that given time went up, if that makes sense.
So this used to be funds allocated through a larger period
That's
of time
correct.
for us, not more funds obligated.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? I appreciate it, Josh.
Thank you.
I'm getting to feel old when all these people come up here who used to work for me. I just,
I remember not too long ago you come through a drug task force somewhere down in South.
oh yeah, yeah. And your daddy used to work for me.
Yes, sir.
So.
Hey, we always celebrate when he comes back.
That'll get you some money. Okay, next up is GBI. And he didn't work for me, but his assistant did.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, committee.
Good afternoon.
Chris Hosey, with Director, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and Connie Buck, our CFO from GBI, is here with me today. We thank you for allowing us to be here today and go over our budget for 27. I'll begin at 30.1.5, which provides funds for security contracts at the Coastal Crime Lab and our headquarters crime lab facility. That's at $144,168. This provides contract funds for our security guard at our Coastal Crime Lab in Pooler, which we have the facility there for them, or the location for them, but we have never had a security guard assigned there. And of course our MEO office for Pooler is located there as well. It would also add one security guard for headquarters. This is needed for the reconfiguration of our headquarters entrance, which will include a secured entrance on our property. The rest of it will be sealed off, so there'll be secured entrance. There'll be a guard shack location there, and that one of those positions, or that position, would be utilized there for that when that is completed. Under CGIS, I'll go down to 30.2.5, which provides funds for disaster recovery services to comply with Georgia Technology Authority policy, and that's at 266,556. This off-premise disaster recovery solution would allow us to meet GTA's business continuity and disaster recovery policy requirements, and covers 5 of our mission-critical systems under GCIC. The GBI Secure File Transfer Protocol, the license plate reader, and camera system storage as well, FLOC being one of the big ones. Georgia Law Enforcement Messaging Switch would be under that as well. the Georgia Protective Order Registry, the Sex Offender Registry tool, and computerized criminal history would be under that as well.
Let's see, when they're getting ready to give you another one. Domestic violence registry. I'm sure you've heard it, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I will go down to next to 30.3.5, which is increased funds for ongoing maintenance of upgraded DNA software. That is $79,920. This is software to replace two systems that we have going right now for this same service. It would put it all under one system. It would streamline the process. And this is in the very early stages of getting to a DNA profile that can then go into CODIS. So that's what this software does. It keeps us from having to train scientists on two different kinds of software, and it can all be
I don't
on
know how
one.
you keep up with the progress they're making in DNA research. I mean, it seems to change by
It
week to
does.
week.
It does, and we're trying to keep current with it. And that's the purpose there.
And it's expensive, but it's well worth the money when you can, you know beyond a reasonable doubt that the person involved is actually the violator.
That's right. And it doesn't take long to get behind in the technology today.
No. We get some cases up here about once a year with 3 or 4 people that have been convicted wrongfully, spent 25 years in prison for something they didn't do. And, you know, if we we have DNA, it's beyond a doubt that they're the perpetrators. And
Yes.
that's great for our society as a whole. I can't imagine spending 25 years in prison for something I didn't do.
Oh, exactly. 30.3.6 eliminates funds for one-time purchases of 3 handheld portable mass spectrometers, which are chemical detection devices. They are very similar to the mass specs we utilize in the crime lab. That figure was at $327,546. We're using those in the overall project of trying to reduce the backlog in drug chemistry. We started a preliminary reporting project back in the spring of last year using current instrumentation that we can do in bulk testing. To give you an example, in about a month, we eliminated the backlog in 1 judicial circuit, and we're continuing to spread that process across the state right now. We're actually getting ready to send out a ops bulletin to all our partners on that. It gives the prosecutors around the state something to work with if they can go ahead and adjudicate the drug case. Where the portable mass specs fit in is the crime lab will be, they're going through the validation process with them right now. The one thing we want to do, make sure that we do with them, is that we stay within our accreditation standards with the lab. So they're working on that right now. We estimate maybe by May we'll be able to roll out the training to the agents within the GBI at our drug offices and gang offices. At that point, we have 7 additional mass specs that we will push out into our gang offices and drug offices, and preliminary testing will start there in our drug offices. That will be drug evidence that potentially may never have to be submitted to the crime lab and go to the backup or the backlog. Our goal long-term is once that is in place and we have kind of the guidelines, SOPs in place for it, that we would like to introduce that to some of our other agencies across the state, sheriff's office, police departments that can do the same thing.
That's great. Do you still have a need for more scientists or?
Yes, currently right now we have 24 vacancies in the crime lab. We are trying to hire 12 of them. We only have the funding to hire 12 of them. And the priority on that hiring is in drug chemistry and biology, which is our 2 biggest backlogs. We have expanded drug chemistry into our Augusta lab. If I'm not mistaken, we have never had drug chemistry at our Augusta lab. And we do have 1 scientist that will be ready, once trained, to move into that position. Obviously, we can put more there. When we get ready, hopefully to expand the crime lab in Macon, drug chemistry will expand there as well too, so there'll be need for additional scientists there. So again, 24 vacancies, 12 of them we're working to fill in those 2 high priority areas. So if there was funding for the other 12, that's likely where they would look to go as well.
And this is a question for 2 different positions, but is the pay there equitable with the private sector? And not only that, with the doctors that do autopsies, are we having pay issues with them too? I know for a while they're, it's so competitive in the outside world to get those people. And I know your fellowship program, I think,
Well, I was going to say, our
yeah.
fellowship program has been a tremendous help along with loan forgiveness. Our doctor's salaries could be better. There's a little bit of a compression issue.
What is it right now? Just that, just
270.
about. You know, we were dealing with this yesterday in corrections for psychiatrists. They pay about 1/2 of what psychiatrists on the outside make.
So a board certified ME with 5 years or less is at 270.
See, I didn't realize psychiatrists are about 400,000. It's and we pay 200 for. It's no wonder we can't attract them in the prison system. That's not exactly the most pleasant environment to work in to begin with, and then make half the money you could make outside. It's an ordeal to keep them.
Right. So, yes, sir, and I think we provided some documentation on that. There are some compression concerns there with the doctors. With the scientists, we're in the ballpark. I know we looked at Tennessee. They do pay more than our scientists are making, but we're working hopefully in the next week or so to get some additional data on that to give a better comparison. We're in the ballpark.
Well, that's good to hear because, you know, with all those vacant positions and the workload and the backlog, I just, you know, it's kind of spells disaster for the law enforcement community because nothing, you know, everybody in there that's been involved in law enforcement is nothing moves if they don't get the evidence back from the crime lab.
That's right.
I mean, everything shuts down. So.
Yes, sir. I will go down to 30.4.4, which is the funds to enhance the retirement benefits for select post-certified law enforcement officers who are members of the Georgia State Employees Pension and Savings Plan by increasing the employer contributions to the savings plan. That's at $239,630. 30.4.7 is to increase funds to annualize 3 human trafficking positions. Those are agent positions assigned to our human trafficking unit at $287,300. In FY26, we received 6 months of funding for 3 sworn positions, and neither GBI nor CJCC do we qualify for that grant any longer that was paying those salaries previously, and this would fund the remaining 6 months in FY27. That unit was started in July of 20, and they have.
Which unit is this?
The human trafficking.
Okay.
Heat,
Okay.
heat unit for sure.
I knew we did it for a cold case too, and I didn't.
Right. Then 30.4.8 is provide funds for 3 special agent positions. In FY26, we received funds to purchase 1 portable electric surveillance unit. We also received some grant funds to purchase an additional unit. These are surveillance platforms. We use grant funds for the second one so we could put 1 in the north part of the state and 1 in the south part of the state. The positions we're asking for here, which is at $543,750, is to help operate those so that they are solely assigned to those 2 surveillance units and platforms. We have utilized this platform on a loan already until the hours are produced and delivered. We've used them in fugitive cases, drug, gang investigations, human trafficking, kidnapping, and even a missing persons investigation. And up to my last check on it, each time it was used, we had a success with it in some manner. So it is great technology that we've been awarded with here. Again, these positions are to solely dedicate them individuals, those agents, to the use of those all the time, and then they can deploy anywhere in the state that's needed. 30.4.9 is to increase funds to annualize 4 criminal intelligence analyst positions for GSAC. That's $171,841. In FY26, we received 9 months of funding for 4 intel analyst positions that were previously funded with federal grants. This funding would provide the other 3 months worth of funding and basically moving them completely off the grant onto the state.
Is the FBI still providing you with an analyst at GSAC?
I think so. I know we're housed with them, and there's a great partnership there with them.
Right.
And so they're working pretty much hand in hand each day. Whether they're sitting side by side, I'm not sure.
Okay.
30.4.10 kind of refers to one that I've already spoke of. It would eliminate the one-time funds for that electric surveillance unit platform that I mentioned earlier. that was in FY '26. That's $877,320. So it's eliminating those funds for that same surveillance platform that I mentioned and talked about in 30.4.8. 30.4.11, we transferred funds from GBI to GEMA for the gang case management system support. That is what Director Lamb spoke of earlier in his presentation.
And that's working all right like that?
I believe so. We're working on some things with this same system to enhance our current system. So, yes, sir. You want me to go through capital projects?
No.
Okay. Well, then that was my last one.
You got any big capital projects?
I'm sorry?
You got any big capital projects?
Headquarters, Macon. Those are the two biggest ones.
Okay. We'll look at them in the book.
Okay. Very good.
Okay, number 8, who we got? Oh, my gracious. Representative Williams.
I heard the excitement in your voice, Mr. Chairman. How's the gang problem? Can you show marked improvement over last year this time when you came?
I don't have any statistics with me today, but our gang statistics stay pretty steady. I think you have to look at the type of gang cases are being worked, because it's not just focusing on gangs, but also on the involvement they have in violent crime, drugs, and things of that nature. So it is very, and again, I don't have the numbers, but it is very, or it's not unusual for drug and violent crime cases to have a gang nexus to that. But we can get you some statistics.
Good, just one follow-up. Excluding Metro Atlanta, where are your biggest problems with gang activity?
It would be a sole guess on my part, but I would also answer it this way, is obviously you're going to see gangs more prevalent in some of your major metropolitan cities, the larger cities. But that gang problem in small town Georgia that may not be as big as what it is in one of the larger cities is just as big of a problem. So we look at addressing it in all of them, regardless of the size of the population.
Could you mention any places that now give you pause?
I can't, and that's solely because I don't focus on one area of the state when I look at something like that. We know we have a problem throughout the state of Georgia, so we want to address those within our regions. They're focusing on those.
Can you get some numbers for areas throughout the state like Savannah, Augusta, Brunswick even, Macon? I'd like to see them. And if you have comparison numbers where you were last year and where you are this year, certainly like to have those if possible.
We'll see what we can pull together.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I did see maybe a month or so ago where our cold case unit finally made a hit on a murder that occurred about 20 years ago. So I was thrilled to see that finally. It's
hopefully there's a lot more of those in the making.
Well, I think there's a couple hundred cases out there, isn't there?
Oh, there's more than that. I want to say around 400.
Yeah, I know there are about 50 in Clark County alone,
right.
Particularly young girls that were attending college there that have disappeared or been murdered, and we thought that was something pretty significant to fund, and I'm glad y'all have got it going. So, if there aren't any questions, that's all we have for you.
Okay.
Thank you. CJCC, I see him stand out in the hall. He never worked for me, but he used to have this position years ago when I was sitting in the chairs asking for things. So turnabout's fair play, I guess.
And Mr. Chairman, we had such a good relationship back then.
It's a shame that's gone away, isn't it?
I have nothing to say to that other than thank you for the opportunity to come before you again today.
Well, I appreciate what you do. You've got a tough job over there with some of the federal money that's been cut off in recent years, and really left us shortcomings with our family violence centers and our sexual assault centers, and I know you're doing best you can, but it's hard when you get all that federal money and then it all of a sudden goes away.
And we have an amazing staff at CJCC that has done an incredible job of helping plug those gaps and keep those victim service providers as close to full as we could during that process. And proud of the team there at CJCC. Appreciate all of your help. Your committee's been good to us. We appreciate that.
Well, I have 30 or 40 women gather up on me every year about family violence centers and domestic violence centers about the lack of money. So I have to do something.
I understand.
You know the drill.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll just make this as quick as I can. Obviously, I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all may have, but we only have a few items in our budget recommendation. 30.5.4, reduce funds for operations. The intent language considered non-binding by the governor, that's $33,558. Reduce one-time funds for the offset of the Loss of Victim of Crime Act funds for federal fiscal year 2025, that's $3.125 million. Eliminate funds for one-time funding for gang prevention activities in Chatham County, $250,000. And then utilize existing funds of $133,867 from rental savings to be used for grant opportunities. And that concludes our recommendations.
What's the reason for eliminating? I'm from Savannah, and eliminating funds for one-time funding for gang prevention activities in Chatham County, and I'm well aware of the gang activity that goes on down there, and all the seems like they're in the war from time to time. Some of the gangs and the shootings are just about every night, and I'm not so sure I'd like to see $250,000 taken back from what I thought was a very vital part of criminal justice process down there.
It was our understanding that was one-time funding.
Okay. Did we put in last year in supplemental, or?
It was in.
Okay. Okay, Representative Williams.
Good to see you.
Always good to see you.
All righty. Let me follow up on the chairman's question. Let me ask it from a little different direction.
Okay.
I know it was one-time funding, $250,000. But in the not too distant past, we had a shootout in the mall between two gangs. Is this a good time to take money away, and wouldn't it help if we could continue to do something? I know the position you're in, and I know with the governor's recommendation, but the shootouts have not declined, but the money has gone away. I can't understand, how do we intend to continue to combat gang violence if we continue to cut the money?
I think Governor Kemp has made it very clear from the time that he was campaigning and throughout 2 years in office that preventing gang activity is a very important part of his agenda, and he's worked very hard to do that, working with gang task forces with the GBI and some of the work that we've done as well. I really can't answer specifics to this other than I know it was one-time funding. And
I don't misunderstand me. I'm not being critical of the governor's work. I am being critical of the fact that the numbers hadn't gone down that much, so the money is, you can't do it without funding it. So no matter what we do, it does not take long to lose all your gains going forward if you don't continue the push. And the push ever was needed is in Southeast Georgia. I guess because we're closer to it, it concerns me when we're having gunfights and losing money to combat those gunfights. That's just how I see it.
And we all watch it on TV. The malls have video cameras everywhere, and they're hiding behind clothes and firing off 2 or 3 rounds and moving and doing it again. And about 3 weeks before that, they did it in a public square. It was a regular Vietnam firefight down there. There were right in the middle of the tourist area at one of the largest hotels in Savannah. I mean, I think they found like 200 shells on the ground.
That's an open gunfight.
Yeah.
And we lose the money.
Yeah.
I can't understand that.
Well, the $3 million that was funded last year to offset the loss of VOCA funds was not intended to be a one-time expense. Is there still a need for this funding, considering we are yet again losing more VOCA dollars come October? And what items were funded by that money last year?
That money, $2 million was divided among 49 child advocacy centers. Each child advocacy center received $40,816. And $1 million was divided into 24 grants, $41,666 to support programs serving human trafficking, domestic violence, and sexual assault. And one grant went to Barrow County to support the Appalachia school shooting response.
Some of this just doesn't make good sense to me, and I'm not saying the governor, OPB's wrong, but when I worked at CJCC, I visited all the shelters all around the state. I know a lot of the women that run them, and I don't think the public has any sense of what goes on there, and it's really it's depressing when you go in there and you got a woman that's got 3 kids and got a husband or a boyfriend that wants to beat her up, and their life is just going to hell. I mean, where are they going to go when they get out? Last year we had to put a bunch of money in there for surveillance equipment, because usually the person who's responsible at night, they're coming in there and they're drunk or wild and trying to break in, so now they can surveil them, at least call 911 and get somebody down there to help them. But it's just a sad state of affairs, and I don't know what we can do to correct it. Money isn't everything, but I personally appreciate what you do to try and resolve it.
Mr. Chairman, you mentioned the work that these nonprofits are doing. When we found out in June that we were going to be managing the funding for child advocacy centers, I had my assistant set up a tour, and I visited 58 facilities from September through November last year. And we have the child advocacy center directors right now together in Norcross for a round table. I spoke to them this morning, and I shared with them how my time with them in that tour helped me understand the extent of the work that they do. Each center is different. They have different facilities. They have different needs and different community needs, and they're all responsive to the needs of their community. They are very passionate people, and while this was specific to child advocacy centers, I can tell you it's applicable to domestic violence shelters and the sexual assault centers and the CASAs. They're all very passionate about the work they do, and they do phenomenal work, Mr. Chairman.
Well, we put some money in for SANE nurses last year too, and that all got cut out. I don't know how they can expect you to prosecute rape cases if you don't have proper evidence and somebody that knows how to collect it and maintain a good chain of evidence. It just doesn't work. But I appreciate what you do, and I know you advocate tirelessly on this, and we support you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I got a couple other people want to ask you questions.
Okay.
Representative Williams.
Jay, you do an excellent job. Thank you for the work. You watch you about 20 years now since we first met. But the frustration is great when you work hard. It's kind of hard to make bricks without straw, and especially with these shelters. They fly under the radar intentionally, and they don't get the attention they should. And people are beaten senseless by crazy folk, and they have to literally run and hide and then be transported, hopefully to safety. They don't get the attention because it's not one of the glaring things that's really popular to do. But until somebody is killed, and then we all panic. But what have we done to prevent that? And it doesn't take long in the community for people to know where these houses that are not supposed to, you don't supposed to know where they are, but it doesn't take long. And it's sad that we have to wait for violence, because prevention saves lives.
So I think, and I've been here for 10 years. Stephen has been at CJCC a little bit longer than I have, and Robert's been at CJCC for many, many years. What we have seen over the last number of years is our partners have worked very, very hard to address some of those very issues. And just in the time that I've been at CJCC, the growth that I've seen in the services that they provide has been incredible. I truly believe that from a victim service provider standpoint, that Georgia is a state that many other states in the country look to for the work that we do. We are, our providers are victim-centered and trauma-informed. We have protocols in place within the local communities to guide the response, and they're dedicated, passionate people that are doing everything they can to try to prevent the very situations that you're talking about. And while we'll never be able to get to a place to where we completely eliminate, we have certainly been able to reduce those instances, and we've been able to provide a significant level of services for those victims that come into the system. I'm really proud of the providers and the work that they've done, and our team in working with them to help them build what we have here in the state of Georgia. We should be proud of our victim service response.
Yeah, I'm proud of the women that run most of these places. They've even started, since we've had the cutbacks, they've started trying to raise money locally, even to the point of having bake sales to try and raise a little bit of money. And they've got the county commissioners and the cities and in some places to donate some money to try and help them along. But we always seem to come up a little bit short. And I just, when I go around and look at them, they have no future. I mean, at some point, they just feel like they're going to sit there for the rest of their lives, and where they're going to go, what are they going to do? And it's just, it's kind of hurts me just to watch it. So, it's there, but for the grace of God, just about go anybody. So.
And that's why it's so important that these providers are able to be there to provide hope for them.
It is sad, Mr. Chairman, but some people, like when I see Chairman Chris, former superintendent, introduced the literacy bill, a lot of times literacy and this violence walk hand in hand. And unfortunately, we live in this great state that I'm so proud of, number one, to do business in, but also the lowest literacy rate in the entire country. We're behind Mississippi and Alabama. Until we deal with issues like that, your job's going to always be tough, and we're going to always be playing catch up. So, and we can't start to cut back on funding at this critical point. And that's what's happened. I see too many one-times, and one dab doesn't do it anymore. It takes more than a dab. We got to start funding these under-the-wire programs that literally save lives. And we got to do that, and we start with the literacy piece in school. We're going to have to do something.
So I think in addition to saving lives, it also brings a quality of life to those survivors as well. And I think that's another, and obviously we want to save as many lives as we can, but we also want to bring quality of lives to the survivors as well.
Particularly the children. I mean, you grow up in that environment, that has an effect on you the rest of your life. Chairman Saints.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And forgive my catching up, but there's been a lot of conversations on the sexual assault centers and the domestic violence centers, and I know this isn't what you're coming with asking, but given that you've done the review around the state, I know it's somewhere around $12 million for the sexual assault domestic violence centers and $3 million for the sexual assault centers that they're asking for separate for us to supplement. What is your perspective on the condition of these shelters, the ability for them to manage what has become a shortfall year to year? And what are the repercussions of keeping it as is versus where do you think those funds might go if that were to be supplemented?
Well, in my conversations with our partners, we have already, when we awarded the last ARPA funds, we awarded them for a 2-year period, and we encouraged them to stretch that out over the 2 years, and that cycle ends September the 30th this year. Some of our partners have done that, other partners did not. We have seen a number of partners that have already reduced their staff by a position or two. The reality of what everybody thinks is going to be happening October 1st, given where we are. We, for example, last year we awarded $113 million for victim service providers. This October 1st, we have $83 million. If that award goes from the $113 million to $83 million, and that's spread across child advocacy centers, sexual assault, domestic violence, CASAs, and the victim advocates and prosecutors' offices. Obviously, if that award goes from $113 million to $83 million, there's going to be significant reductions in forces. Our partners will have no choice but to do that. I know they're working hard to try to find anything that they can locally to sustain, but the reality is there will be positions cut, and that will make it more difficult to deliver those services. What I'm hearing, the likelihood is the first positions that are going to be cut are probably therapist positions. Those are areas where our providers have been able to expand their services above and beyond over the last number of years. And those will likely be some of the first ones to be eliminated. I had one child advocacy center director tell me that if what he expects to happen happens in October, he'll have to eliminate a therapist, full-time therapist, and a half-time therapist. And he said, I already have 40 kids on a waiting list right now for services. So those are the kind of impacts I think that we're probably going to see this fall.
Mind if I follow up, Mr. Chairman? I appreciate that, and your perspectives, unfortunately, better than ours on the implications that might have. In terms of this, because it's a grant process that all 4 categories of agencies go through, correct? Is it completely competitive? Is it what? Obviously, there's going to be more need that meets the federal level funding through this grant. What is the process of? Is it everyone who applies must get a portion, and there's not much ability to? What does that look like?
What that's going to look like this fall is something that we've not completely determined yet, quite frankly. What we anticipate doing is, for the most part, this fall, everything will just be a continuation award of what they presently have. Where the challenges come are from those programs that are utilizing the ARPA funds to maintain the service level that they have. So as we continue to provide basically a continuation award going forward, their cuts are not going to be out our door. It's going to be felt by what's ending with the ARPA funds that they presently have primarily.
So when you talk about that 27% reduction in funds from year past, and you're saying it's a continuation, are you saying that the 27% reduction, I'm just not sure if I'm understanding, because I think you're saying 27% reduction, what's the difference of that, and then the funds are continuing at just not at the same level? Is that what you mean by continuation?
So we have, our funding is, we have a number of funding streams. We have some state appropriations for family, for domestic violence. We have some state appropriations for sexual assault centers, some state appropriations for child advocacy centers. The remainder of our funds are grant driven. And we anticipate that those funds will be able to continue. What's going to go away will be those ARPA funds that we awarded a year and a half ago, and those ARPA funds will not be, we don't have the ability to fill the void caused by that lack of ARPA funds. So I don't know the percentage. I'm going to, just for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to accept your 27%. And I'm going to say that the likelihood is that 27% represents 27% of their existing funds are ARPA funds, and they're going away.
Gotcha.
So the grant funds should stay in a continuation base. The following year, October of 27, if we still are at that place of 83 million, then we'll have to have competitive awards and try to figure out how to best utilize those funds around the state. And ultimately, we'll look for the way that we can create the least amount of impact for our programs. Some programs, if you took 27% of their budget, would close their doors. Obviously, we can't do that. Other programs that offer more services, they can eliminate services but maintain open doors. And that's going to be a really difficult decision for my staff and for our council when we start having to try to figure out with those limited funds in 27 how we're going to divide those among the programs.
I appreciate it. And I want to ask a follow-up, but it sounds like the first funding elimination, if we don't add anything, would be mental health services in a pretty vulnerable population. Thank you.
And I will add, those ARPA funds that are there now are there to replace the VOCA funds that have dwindled so much over the years.
Any further questions? Any further questions? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate you.
Members of the committee. Appreciate y'all.
Let's go straight to them.
Domestic violence shelters?
We're going to wait on council accountability.
Okay.
Go straight to
Okay, the domestic violence shelters. I didn't realize you were sitting there while we were talking about you. Aren't you from Valdosta?
Yes, sir. It's nice when you can remember me. I think that is that.
Well, I remember you. I remember what you said.
I did. I did.
You're about as aggressive as
I am. Just a little passionate.
well, and
Passionate. Well,
and I appreciate that. I mean,
I thought you did, so that's good. I just think the best policy is the truth, and a lot of times in politics, or a lot of times we just want to dance around what our need is and why we need it. And I just feel like honesty is the best policy, and if I tell the truth, I can't ever forget that.
well, you made a lasting impression.
Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the committee for allowing me to.
I didn't recognize you, but I recognize Valdosta, and I know where you live. So.
Yes, sir. I know, but that's good. I'm going to take that as a big compliment today. Well, thank y'all for letting us come and speak today. I've got Suzanne Dow, and she's from Habersham area, and she's
emotional support.
Emotional support, and no, she knows a lot of numbers. She's got a lot in her brain that I don't anymore. But I wanted to first say thank you for always supporting domestic violence and sexual assault shelters, and the words that you said before, and saying that you know what, you've been to our shelters, you've seen what we do, you know how we work, and that's half the battle today of speaking to you. I don't have to sell myself, and that's a very calming feeling coming before you, because I am very nervous, and I don't get nervous very often, so I am very nervous today. I operate 3 shelters in Georgia. 1 sexual assault center and 1 family justice center. We have 159 counties, and I operate 16 counties out of those 159 counties. And so in doing that, I'm set to have a shortfall of $1 million between those 3 programs. So that's why I'm here today, is to ask you for $12.3 million for domestic violence shelters. And then you're going to hear a little bit from Marina Pete about our sexual assault programs, which I also run a 24-hour medical component, 24-hour, 7 days a week sexual assault center. And so with running the do more for less is just not a metaphor that we can afford anymore. And come October the 1st of 2026, we're headed to some downfalls. I first wanted to make it very clear that this is really not an attempt to fill a gap. And I think that's kind of a misunderstanding that we have. I'm just going to read what I wrote because I think it sounds really good and you can understand it. And so if I go off, she told me she's going to kick me. So that's
If you go off again.
if I go off again, that's right. For years, our programs have had to rely on federal grant funds to help us cover core ongoing services that actually are state obligations under our state certifications. In other words, we have been using federal money to pay for state responsibilities. Our request today isn't an attempt to fill that gap, is what I said. It is not an attempt to relieve special federal funding. It's the opposite. We're asking the state to properly fund its own certification requirements and core services. And that's what that $12.3 million is asking, for you to support what you require of us. Lessening restrictions and requirements and certifications is not what we need to do. You talked about earlier about giving funding for safety at our shelters. Well, I was one of those shelters that a man brought a gun to my shelter in Waycross to try to find his spouse. And I've had that done 3 times in the last 2 years. So our shelters have to stay confidential, they have to stay secure, or lives are at risk. And so I'm glad you brought that up. Federal grants allow for new innovation. For instance, one of our state requirements is to provide legal advocacy. But in my county, in Valdosta, I have 9 counties. One legal advocate can't serve 9 counties and do almost 300 TPOs in a year. So I have 3 TPOs. So that innovation,
You have 3
3 advocates, there you go, see, there you go. 3 advocates, 2 of those come from VOCA funding, 1 comes from state. And I think that's the difference in the language that we're using, and maybe we're not articulating ourselves correctly to tell you what we need, but to be able to say that federal funds is for that best practice. Federal funds is for my Family Justice Center, right? Not for your ongoing core services. Every domestic violence program in Georgia is required to meet 47 standards in 9 critical areas. Your facility management, accountability, financial, stewardship, staff, and management. Each year, CJCC conducts monitoring site visits and conducts compliant on-site visits. This ensures that every crisis call is answered by a trained advocate. This also ensures that shelter facilities are secure and confidential. Staff are trained to conduct lethality assessments. Programs coordinate with law enforcement, prosecutors, judges, and courts. These standards keep your 47 shelters in compliance and accountable. And we are audited out the hilt, so you should have, even in your own reports, you'll be able to see that. In 2025, certified domestic violence programs served over 40,000 victims and children of domestic violence, answered over 70,000 crisis calls, and provided 292,000 bed nights. But the most interesting statistic that I found was 15,928. That's the people denied shelter because we were full. So almost 16,000 women and children did not receive shelter because we were full and at capacity. It's also important to understand that Georgia's domestic violence system is highly integrated. Of the 47 state-certified domestic violence programs, 21% of us are dual programs or tri-programs. Like I'm in Valdosta, I'm a sexual assault and domestic violence. You've got many of those, 21% of us are dual or tri, which some of them are child advocacy, sexual assault, and domestic violence. So we are doing more, and it takes more to do more. So 21% of us are dual or tried. So
Do you
that's
share
really
facilities when you do that?
Sir?
Do you put them in the same facility?
So yes, I have a full separate sexual assault center. So once they get a medical exam and once they have all that done, our advocates take them to the shelter to live in our shelters. Yes, sir.
Do you have a SANE nurse?
We do. We have a full-time SANE nurse, thanks to you, for y'all. Yeah, we do, for the first time ever, and that's great. These programs are responding to overlapping domestic violence, sexual assault, and child advocacy cases, often involving the same families. So we work daily with law enforcement, hospitals, prosecutors, judges, and when funding for domestic violence programs is unstable like it is now, you have a hard time staffing your domestic violence and sexual assault centers. Nobody wants to come to work, qualified staff. It impacts far beyond just shelter beds, and I hope today you see that we're just more than a shelter bed. It affects sexual assault response, child advocacy services, forensic exams, exams, court coordination statewide. It affects everything. Our programs are not operating in isolation. We are a part of Georgia's public safety infrastructure. Advocates assist survivors with TPOs, accompany them to court, coordinate safety planning when offenders are arrested or released, and we're excited about the registry. We conduct lethality assessments and work closely with law enforcement and judges to reduce the risk of serious injury and homicide. When shelters are underfunded and forced to reduce capacity, the burden shifts directly to law enforcement, courts, hospitals, and emergency rooms. And last year, 163 victims died of domestic violence in Georgia. According to CJCC and your own House Oversight Report, in 2022, the average cost to fund a shelter for core services only was $896,000. That does not include the inflation of today. And we all know, we all talk about it, costs in our own homes have gone up. But what we're seeing is to hire qualified staff, 40%, our staffing costs have increased by 40% to hire an advocate. I used to hire an advocate out of college for $25,000, $30,000. I'm at Valdosta State College down there, university. They're telling us what they want to work for because it's a very competitive market. Food costs has gone up. I don't have to tell you that. You're buying groceries at your own house, or somebody is. Food and basic necessities, utilities and transportation, you know. Somebody's doing it. I mean, I don't even do it at my house, but somebody's doing it. Liability, vehicle and health insurance. South Georgia, we've been hit by 3 hurricanes in 3 years. We got passed by this year, thank you, Jesus. But we've had 3 hurricanes. We have limited rental. There's nowhere to rent. I received a grant in Waycross through the Department of Community Affairs, which I had to give back money because I had nowhere for victims to rent, even though I had money to assist them to be able to rent. So what does that say to you? They're staying longer in shelter because we can't get them out. When they stay longer in shelters, another woman can't get in my shelter, right? Because they're staying longer with us. So that's another thing. At the same time, communities face the rental limitations, the rising cost of rent. After the moratoriums, things are just very expensive now. Deposits, people who rent, landlords are trying to require the deposit in the first month, second month's rent, or last month's are double to triple the cost that they used to be 5 years ago. And so people can't afford that. You're living in shelter and you're having everything taken from you. You can't get all this money up in 6 to 8 weeks. And then we have fewer safe places. Programs have stretched every dollar. You talked about it. I know you're talking about me, and I've raised money in my own community. I've done everything you've told me to do. I've raised over $400,000 in Valdosta in my own community to go with our funding. I get funding directly straight from Washington. I have VOCA funding. I have Safe and Stable Families funding, Department of Community Affairs funding. I'm doing all the right things, private foundations. I'm doing everything that you've told me to do. I still cannot manage what the increase in victim services is in my community. Last year I put 288 women in hotels that I could not put in my shelter, and then I outsourced another 112 women and children that I had to relocate in other shelters. Why do we put women in hotels? Because everybody can't relocate. When you have a job, you can't just relocate to another facility. You can't go somewhere else. And TPOs, let's just talk about that. When the court system's backed up, we can't get a TPO immediately. Until that victim has to go in a hotel or shelter. We had a sexual assault a few weeks ago. Well, the perpetrator was in the neighborhood, right? So the victim didn't want to go back home. So we didn't have anywhere in our shelter. 3 shelters took that one victim by getting her to shelter because we were full. We had to send her to Tifton, then we sent her to Thomasville before we could bring her back to Valdosta. That should not be happening in our own society. So my shortfall in Valdosta is over $667,000, another $300,000 for Waycross. Shortfalls is in St. Mary's. Right now, programs, Jay talked about that. I don't know if that's 27% of my budget, but it's a dang lot of money. And I know that I have to raise money to go with your money. My hotel stays last year was $145,000, yet grant money only paid for a portion of that. $97,000 came out of my local funds that I'm using to raise more money to provide more victim services. So we are doing what you ask us to do over the years. I can't say the word all. I don't know what everybody else is doing, but I know the majority of shelters and sexual assault centers are doing a dang good job trying to make that, but we cannot fundraise ourselves out of $12.3 million and $3.3 for sexual assault. And I'll hush.
Well, I think everybody here knows. I think everybody here knows why I remembered you.
And she stayed on track. Stayed on track. I'm so excited. She
No,
wanted
you
to
did a
keep
great
me, don't
job,
what?
just as you did in my office, and, well, we're with you. It's
I think you are, and I appreciate that.
It's just it's with everything here. It's a matter of money and how much we have and how much we can give out, and what the federal government's doing to us with some of the cuts that are coming through. And but I got a couple of questions here for you.
Okay.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I see what the chairman was talking about. It's called passion.
Thank
And
you. I
if
like
you
the word
don't
passion
have
better.
passion, if you don't have it, you shouldn't be leading organizations like yours.
Yes, sir.
Because it's so easy to fall in the rut of complacency, and you're a breath of fresh air because far too many leaders in our state government try to impress the higher ups on how little money they can use instead of telling the truth about how much money they need.
That's right.
And you did excellent.
Thank you.
And somebody, if you keep hollering, somebody will hear you. Because we got to stop all this stuff, and it's good PR about we the greatest in the nation for business. And you had all of these women that could not get beds in this state.
Yes, sir.
Lives at stake. And if you don't holler, it's going to really get bad. And we go into panic mode when somebody dies. But now is the time to keep people alive. Keep screaming, because I'm telling you, sometimes you might feel like you're by yourself, because this is a state that that folk just like to see. I had money to send back, and folk need money.
I had never sent anything back.
Well, you got a few folk right here think that we can do all this, and I can show you how great I am for saying no to people. Thank you, and I know your people don't get paid nothing like the money that they deserve. Some folks six figures high in Georgia. People who save people's lives have to suffer to pay their own rent.
Yes,
Keep
sir.
hollering.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know in some of the shelters they had some volunteers for a while. Do you still get some volunteer help, or?
We don't get a lot since COVID shut down a lot of the colleges and they opened back up. The volunteer base is not as prevalent, and then a lot of the people that need your psychology and they have to do some hours, they're finding it in different places because mental health needs a lot more volunteers than they used to. So we have some interns, but somebody like Waycross or even St. Mary's that I'm running now. I've been in Valdosta 18 years, Waycross 31 years, and I've been running St. Mary's since last May. But somebody like with St. Mary's, they have volunteers that'll come in and help fix a shelter, but they don't have volunteers to come in. They don't have that college base that they need.
Well, I was thinking that sociology or psychology majors.
Yes, sir.
Do you use interns or?
We would if we had them, but we have very limited now. So we have just a few. But more so in your bigger college areas, not in somewhere like Waycross, St. Mary's, Vidalia. We don't have those.
Well, here comes the St. Mary's guy, Chairman Saints.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to preface this by saying I appreciate, Michelle, your work in taking over St. Mary's, and I'm saying this for the benefit of assuming multiple shelters are in the position that St. Mary's was, which
Yes, sir.
was the funding is convoluted to be limited, and the operations take a lot of elements to ensure that funding stays equal. So we would, I would say if it wasn't for you, it'd be very close to, if not closed down right now. So thank you. With the $12.3 million, I think it's easy to get lost in, and I appreciate Jay kind of painting the picture, but can you walk through where, because I heard the ARPA funding and VOAD funding is a main core, where from last year to this year, just focus on one of your shelters, where's this deduction coming from? Understanding that maybe there's some misalignment in what federal funds were used for based on what it costs for the state certification. But let's pretend we're doing nothing.
Okay.
Without that $12.3 million, what does this look like year to year, and where do things change?
So for me personally, without the increase in funding, I'll make sure that I'm getting what you say, what you're asking, but without the increase in funding for one of my my shelters completely. Like those 288 women, the first thing I will cut is hotel stay. That'll be the first thing. I mean, I'll have to because that's not essential services inside of our shelter. So that'll be the first thing to cut, $145,000 off of my budget.
So what do they do if
So
they
I
don't
don't-
have a place to stay? Are they on the street?
I'm just going to give them somebody's number. I don't know what to tell them to do. Yeah, they'll be on the street. And I've said that because that's reality in my own community is putting people in hotels. I'm on 75. I'm human trafficking facility as well. I'm a sexual assault, domestic violence. Like we've got it going down there, and we're at 108 to 110% capacity every year that I've been there for 18 years. So we're not one of those shelters that are 50%. And I'm just like, well, I'm putting somebody in a hotel. This is a true story that we're over 100% capacity annually. And St. Mary's, just for example, since May has been at 134% capacity and have increased their numbers as well. So first thing we'll start cutting is we'll start cutting our hotel stays, of course. And then we will cut services like therapy services if they're in-house. We will cut advocates positions, transportation positions. We will cut, like, for instance, that's not a state mandate. Our advocates used to take them all, and I have a transporter that VOCA pays for. But when you lose those ARPA dollars, VOCA's not going to pay for that position. But here's what we do. This is how transportation is so important, especially in South Georgia. We don't have Ubers or cabs or anything like that down there, right? We just have our own vehicles, or you have what, pit and pat, whatever they used to call it with your feet. That's all you have, right? I mean, that's it. That's all. That's just reality. So here's what happens to that. You get a kid from Berrien County Schools, and the mom has to come in with a child to Valdosta. Well, does it do good to take that kid out of that Berrien County school day one that she enters shelter? We want to make sure that they're going to stay in our shelter. If not, you're taking that kid out, the next day putting that kid in, taking the kid out, putting them in Lowndes County, coming back, putting them back in Berrien, maybe moving them to Lanier if she decides to move. And what have you've got chaos for the school system, chaos for counselors, chaos for the children, chaos for moms, and chaos for advocates. And we don't have the staffing to do that. So our transporter takes those kids to school every morning until we figure out what is the victim going to do? Is she going to stay in our shelter? What is that survivor going to do right now? Where is her job located? Can she relocate in this community? Does she have to go somewhere else? Because it's not conducive to take that kid and just drag them out. That's 159 counties across Georgia, and now you have interrupted your school systems by me not having a transporter. But that's what I'll cut. I'll have to cut that because you don't require it. Staff can do it when they can, but that's the first thing that'll go as well. I'll cut my transporter positions. So it'll be a lot of positions that we just cut that are necessary, that you don't necessarily pay for, but that VOCA and ARPA funding from that gap. We might have knew this shortfall was coming, and we've been told to fundraise, and we've been told all these things, but we've done exactly what you said, but we cannot do it in this amount.
These VOCA dollars, if I can clarify what I think you might be asking, our programs are currently, as of today, operating at a level that we were operating at in 2020. So October of 2020, with the extra therapists and the extra translators and the extra legal advocates. That's where we were. Great capacity, doing what we're doing well. And the VOCA funds did, from the federal level, start going down across the country. Those ARPA funds have filled that gap to keep us all at that 2020 level. If ARPA and COVID had not happened, we would have been here 5-6 years ago, right? So this has just been a delayed necessity to have to come and ask for this level of funding because COVID happened and those ARPA funds were there to save the day for all these years.
So not adjusted for inflation, without the ARPA dollars, you would be at the 2020 level, or right now, okay.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
right now with inflation, it looks like it takes a little over $1 million to fund a shelter. And by your own CJCC's report and your House Committee report, it was $896 in 2022.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? The only thing I would want to know is what kind of vitamins you take.
Everybody asks me that. I don't know. I'm just high energy. I wish I wasn't. I tell my staff, don't be me. Don't be me.
You're a great advocate.
Thank you.
Those people are lucky to have you down in your area.
Well, we're lucky to have y'all.
Well, we want to try and do as much as we can. I mean, I think everybody on here builds the empathy for the people that you deal with, and it's no fun. I don't know how you tell somebody with a woman and 3 kids that you can't stay in a hotel. We don't have a bed for you. I don't know where they go. I mean, I wouldn't want to make that decision.
Me either. And with your help, we won't.
Well,
But thank you.
I'm not the big cheese here. We do as much as we can with what we have, and we make recommendations. But you're certainly in the forefront of what we want to help.
Well, thank you. Thank
And
you.
you have been for years. I mean, I just appreciate you, and men like Representative Williams said, your passion for this. I don't think they could get anybody better to run these things, and you keep doing it. What, 18 years? I mean,
31.
31.
Yeah.
If you
31
can't,
in Waycross, 18 in Valdosta.
you must have started. Well, you're still in high
I
school.
was 12. my daddy was a Marine, so he said, go
Oh,
first.
hoorah!
Right.
I was a Marine too. So. CASA, Child Advocates. Here we. Okay.
Hello. Good, how are you?
How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for inviting us to come and share. Jennifer King with Georgia Court-Appointed Special Advocates, CASA. We have 47 CASA programs that serve every county in Georgia. We've been invited by juvenile courts to advocate for children who have been abused or neglected. Our advocates are community volunteers. So in your communities, they're the ones who go through the training, screening, and are appointed by the juvenile court judge to serve as a guardian ad litem from the time a child's removed from their home until from the time the child's removed from their home until they reach permanency. Beginning in 1990, we started receiving VOCA funds. So a portion of VOCA funds has to be spent on child abuse. Georgia has always spent above and beyond that required percentage. And so our CASA programs, with the support of CASA, with the support of VOCA, we were able to expand into every county in Georgia. Between 2015 and 2019, our VOCA funds went from about $2 million to $6 million. And that was the peak, $6 million. At that time, we were serving the highest percentage of children in foster care, and at about almost 60%. We've very much supported the one-time funding that has come to help us absorb the reduction in VOCA funds, but we know come September 30th that we'll be $3 million less in funding than we were in 2019. Our CASA programs, like all of our other sister nonprofit organizations, have looked for other avenues for support, and will continue to do that. The VOCA funds right now at $3 million represents 15% of our total funding. We do receive state funds and other federal funds. We receive local funding, and the rest, we also have philanthropic support from foundations, local donors, fundraisers, and all of those things that you heard about. So I very much appreciate you all bringing attention to this, what the VOCA funding cut is going to do. And I've shared some information with you, as well as some information for our state funding request that's being heard by another committee.
Well, I've been involved with your organization many times. In fact, every year I cook pancakes. We have a 5K run, and we charge a little bit more than actual cost, and then we serve a pancake dinner afterwards, and the mayor and I and the county commission chairman all cook pancakes for them. So, but certainly that's not enough to run the organization. And most everybody I know is a volunteer.
That's right.
They're just good-hearted people that trying to look out for children that don't have as good a life as we would like for them to have, or else they have some difficulties with societal rules and regulations. But and they need somebody. Most of them don't have anybody in their corner, and they need somebody to represent them and to try and guide them and get them back into leading a good life and having opportunities in life. So we appreciate what you do. Nobody's got any questions? It's the age-old problem with money. I mean, I'm sure everybody sitting here realizes that, everybody needs money, and particularly nonprofits. And but all the state organizations need it too. It's just that they work for the governor. It's the governor's budget, and they pretty much go along with whatever the governor says. And having been in that position, I understand how it works. But here we got a question. Chairman Saints.
I'll be quick. And just for clarification, the role of the CASA, that DFACS has legal counsel that is taking the role of the state, correct? The CASA is the only one who has, not trying to say the only one for the child, but how would you explain that difference in that check and balance that CASA provides? And because that's where, and looking at 957 kids not having that.
Yeah, so each child, each party has a representative. The CASA is the only representative that solely represents the best interests of a child. So the volunteer provides those recommendations directly to the juvenile court, and they're the best interest advocate.
I appreciate it, and then for time I'll follow up with you, but I think that can't be lost in terms of the distinction in interest, and as we deal with updates to our families and children's system, I'd hate for this safeguard not to be in place.
Any further questions?
Great.
We don't have any further questions, but we appreciate you coming, and as with everybody else, we're empathetic. It's we want to do as much as we can to help. It reflects on our society not to be able to.
Yeah, well, we'll be here in force on Thursday, so it's CASA Day at the Capitol. So if you haven't met one of your advocates, I'm sure you will.
Well, I always go over to lunch with them when they come, and some people just have the bad fortune to be born in the wrong set of circumstances, and I think it's the government's job to try and rectify that. So,
thank you so much.
Sure. Sexual assault centers.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
How are you today?
I'm great, thank you. Great to be here today. My name is Marina Peed. I'm the former executive director of Mosaic, Georgia, which is a child advocacy and sexual assault center with a medical forensic program serving Gwinnett and Rockdale counties. I also served on CJCC's Sexual Assault Expert Committee, Human Trafficking Task Force, and Gwinnett's Child Fatality Review Committee. So it's kind of in the blood, but I'm here today really to underscore the difficult decisions that are facing all of the children's advocacy centers and the 34 sexual assault centers across Georgia. As one of the 17 dual centers that also has the medical, we're also deemed a high volume center according to national standards. We provide Mosaic, Georgia serves over 3,000 victims every year with those range of services.
Just in the area, you just talked geographical area?
Our primary service area is Gwinnett County and Rockdale, but we serve victims like every center. We don't turn people away based on where they are.
That's the ones that come to your center?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, just that one location. And so it's that experience that shapes these remarks. And I think it's important to know we are nonprofit organizations, but we are critical components to Georgia's public safety infrastructure. as specialists responding to many forms of the most intimate types of abuses, from child sexual abuse, sexual assault, sex trafficking, and so on. These agencies work at the intersection of public safety, public health, education, and child welfare. And that's really where a lot of cases begin. Those institutions come to our center, and it's a neutral place that provides support for both the primary victim and the secondary, their families that may have also experienced these things. These centers are where forensic interviews are conducted, evidence is documented, sexual assault kits are collected, and victims are stabilized so that criminal cases can proceed through the justice system. Just to ground what this looks like in practice, in 2025, Mosaic, Georgia answered more than 1,100 crisis calls. Most of those come in at nights and weekends because abuse doesn't happen on a schedule. In fact, some of our busiest times are Friday afternoon around 4 o'clock. That's when things seem to happen and coming into the center. We conducted 530 forensic interviews, and provided over 350 medical forensic encounters, where 3 out of the 4 patients that we served were minors. Over half are children under 12. And as CSEC work is active across the state, we work very closely with law enforcement and the statewide efforts. Mosaic confirmed 36 commercially sexually exploited youth, and we partner regularly with DHS, ICAC, GBI, FBI, and Grace's Place, which is a center in Gwinnett County. These are not abstract services. These are real people. We refer to these as cases and numbers, but they're human beings, and they've all got a story to tell. And these centers really are a front door response for the state of Georgia in addressing these types of personal criminal activities. I think there's another piece that we don't talk about a lot, but we have been able to identify serial perpetrators that have not come up on law enforcement because their crimes occurred in different jurisdictions. And when we serve a broader mass and the connectivity that we have, we find the same name of a perpetrator there had been a report in a different jurisdiction. That's always very interesting, particularly in the adult cases where people are afforded an opportunity for an exam without reporting to law enforcement, and many adults do want the service but don't yet feel comfortable. And we had one case last year with a non-report adult victim, and in going through, we were able to identify over 3 years, we had served 2 other adult victims, gave the same name, he had the same MO, lured through online dating apps, and we were able to put those pieces together because as advocates, that's what we do. We look at what the primary space for those victims. Law enforcement has their criteria, DFACS has theirs, and so on. But what happens when somebody gets sorted out for other things? And that's really the power of sexual assault and child advocacy centers. Although these programs are state certified and we do meet very rigorous standards, the state investment really covers just a small portion of what it costs to deliver those for the true cost of compliance. In Mosaic, Georgia's operating budget, for example, the state support is 9%, and that's an increase thanks to that bump that we got last year, 9% of our budget. Gwinnett County supports us at 22% of our budget.
That's what I was going to ask, if you got local funding too.
We do, and as Michelle had said, we really have looked to diversify our funding sources. We have a new facility that we've been able to get through a partnership with Northside Hospital, so we don't have to pay rent, but that would have been another $500,000 cost. But essentially, these are largely funded through those other sources that people have talked about. And the ripple effects of us having to cut back on the number of staff and the number of services are going to impact judicial circuits, public safety, prosecutors, child welfare, and families. Most, if not all, centers are already looking at what do we reduce and how do we cut. We're having that very difficult time. Our health insurance premiums went up 25% in 2026. Last year, they went up 15%.
That's for your employees?
Just for our employees' health insurance. Our liability insurance, which we have for the organization, for our medical providers, for our attorney, and for all of our licensed clinicians, those insurance costs have all gone up as well. So we're in that rising cost environment and now looking at losing about $500,000 in federal funding, which is a significant port. All of that goes to paying the staff to provide the service.
Is your health insurance through Gwinnett County or another, or some municipality, or is that independent?
No, it's independent. We would love it if we could access a larger pool. We have 35 full-time employees, and about 20 of them are actually on the plan. The people that do this work don't make a lot of money, as you've heard earlier, and we have decided we want to keep as many positions as we can and make sure that they're livable wages and provide insurance, because the trauma-focused nature of the work is not for everybody. So how do we help protect our folks and maintain a quality workforce? When people leave, the transition cost is expensive as well. So by the time you hire somebody new, get them trained up, that's also a delay in service. When an investigator calls and says they're bringing in an 11-year-old and they are going to want a forensic interview, possible medical forensic exam, we activate our team to pull those things together. We're open till 8 p.m. on the regular Monday through Friday, and then we have on-call SANEs and advocates and interviewers to provide that other coverage. We're simply not going to be able to do that. That is a standard, though, and so my message is that we can't continue to do the same with less and less, and they're very difficult consequences, and maintaining strong relationships so that we are reliable if DFACS calls or law enforcement calls. We want to do that. But the other aspect of this is understanding that readiness is a cost of service. Providing that 24/7, we can have the crisis line, but to be able to deploy a SANE who has gone through special training to be a forensic nurse, everybody's facing challenges, because again, nurses can make a lot more money doing a lot less stressful work in other fields. So we're constantly competing with the marketplace to provide these services. Without additional state investment, it's clear we can't do the same with less. We just can't. And I think that's just something we've got to explain, and so that's why they asked me to come and say, look, we're really in a dire circumstance. We've patched things, we've MacGyvered these budgets for so long, and we can't bake sale our way out of it. We can't 5K run our way out of it. These are really important public safety issues. Our prosecutors would love for us to be able to provide expert testimony on cases we're not involved with, and we simply can't afford to do that. We've got the expertise, but we need our SANEs will testify for a case that they're part of the case, and the same thing with our forensic interviewers. But when they're sitting in court waiting to be called, then they're not providing a direct service as well. So really, the work is life-changing. You've seen, we provided a little additional information there, and I don't envy you. We do appreciate the support that we have received over the years. We're just at a very difficult time now. This isn't about expanding our programs. It's keeping it going. And
Chairman Workheiser has a question for you.
yes.
On these non-reported sexual assault cases that you were able to piece together for the serial, so you're not, because they're non-reported, you're not able to contact law enforcement on those?
What in that particular example, we had a private hypothetical conversation, and the and someone was interested in actually investigating. And so then we talked to the victim and explained the situation and asked if she would be interested in reporting.
So you convinced them to change it from non-reporting to reporting. But had you not been able to do that, you're not able to contact law enforcement?
That is correct. And we have about 124 kits right now for non-reports that we're storing in our secure evidence.
Thank you for doing that. And that was my next comment for the edification of this committee. Because as y'all know, this House passed significant legislation to store rape kits. But to my surprise, those rape kits, if they're non-reported rapes, unless they're doing what you're doing, just making a decision, hey, we're going to store these, under state law, they can throw them away. And that's very sad to me. That so there is a bill in the House to capture non-reported rape kits and be treated the same way, that work through the backlog and, as you said, so potentially solve some cases.
We really appreciate that because there are a lot of reasons why somebody doesn't want to report. And what does help is, one, if they've got support of family or friends, but many of them find out that he's done this to so-and-so and so-and-so. And when they realize that, because it's a predatory behavior, I mean, if people would stop doing it, we wouldn't even need to be here. But when they find out that there have been others, then sometimes they've got the support to make that case. And while we're required to keep them on behalf of the state for a year, we are keeping them indefinitely at this point. And we've got expanded space to do that because many times people don't report until decades. You know, if we got another Epstein, I would hate for someone to say, oh, I went to Mosaic, Georgia 10 years ago, and then we're like, oh, we don't have it. So, but that is an additional piece we do.
Thank you for doing that.
And the truth is, we got a new bill this year on DNA, and you know, in Georgia, we don't take much DNA. One of the reasons the real breakthrough in law enforcement back in the 20s was when they started fingerprinting. And one of the reasons it was so successful, even though you had to hand look them up, was that everybody got fingerprinted. I mean, if you went in the military, you got fingerprinted. If you got a secure job in the government, you got fingerprinted. If you got arrested for anything, you got fingerprinted. That doesn't happen with DNA. Only serious violators get it. And people like peeping toms and low-level misdemeanor cases, they commit other acts. Some of them are sexual, some of them are criminal, but we're trying to expand the DNA base. In Georgia, we get more hits on DNA from other states because they take more DNA than we do, and so we're trying to improve that so that we can locate people who commit these crimes and deal with them. But I'm glad to hear it. That was going to be my next question, is whether you saved the evidence if they didn't want to report it, because some people have a change of heart down the road, and if you've missed the evidence, and very obviously you have several sane nurses. You know, we tried to put a sane nurse in every sexual assault center in the state last year, and they got taken out. I don't.
Yeah. Well, we have 3 full-time right now, plus our on-call team, but we won't be able to maintain all of that. We're just all going to have to make some very difficult choices as to.
Of course, it's always bad to hear, but I can't imagine the number of juvenile cases that you were speaking to, young people being assaulted. That's
in very many ways, and I know my friends that are going to speak specifically to CAC will be able to tell you that as well. As a mother, and hopefully someday a grandmother, it's really abhorrent, the things that people think is okay to do to kids.
Well, so many people in our society aren't exposed to it. They have no idea what goes on. My wife thinks everybody's a good person, you know, and I dealt in law enforcement for 50-some years now, and I'm very careful about who I deal with and what's going on between those ears. It's because we had corrections yesterday for about 4 hours, and I got a a newspaper clipping from something that just went on in our prison system that was just barbaric, and it's hard to imagine what one human will do to another sometimes, and it's
they
terrifying.
can be very charming people too. So
particularly when they do it to children. I mean, I just it's one thing for adults that can speak for themselves and defend themselves to some extent, but innocent children, that's just beyond.
well, and experiencing an intimate harm like that has a lifelong consequences.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And so part of, we serve folks with the acute response, which I was talking about with the forensic interviews and the exams. But a big part is our advocacy as well, is just listening. And a mom came in with her child, and as we were with her, turns out her teen had been lured through Instagram and was trafficked in another county, got her home, and then the mom disclosed that she had experienced some things. So it just brought back a trauma she thought she had put behind, but she needs support too in order to support her daughter. So that's the beauty of the work that we do, and when you come and you see it and you realize it could be any of us, that it's great. You want to know the world is great, but my family are like, I can call Thea Marina. She's gonna, it's good to have somebody that you can talk to.
And what's really scary, and I don't know how many people here have done it, but if you bring up the sexual assault webpage and look in your neighborhood at how many deviants you have that have been convicted that live right around you. I mean,
and those convicted, that conviction rate is so small.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That there's a lot more that just don't have the.
Well, there's so many that they won't report for reasons they're very obvious, and it's I don't see it getting any better. It seems like our society is turning a blind eye to some of that, and just like some of the other things we've discussed here today, it's it's a societal problem, but nobody seems to have any cure for it. And certainly money helps when we can track it and do something about it. But you've heard all the testimony here today so far, and everybody needs money, and nobody's going to get enough. I mean, it's to do everything that we need to do to be a responsible government, but. But we appreciate what you do. I mean, we got a lot of people that are caring and do a lot, and that's refreshing.
Well, we have the expertise. We've got the infrastructure. We can do.
You're
so
lucky in
many
your
things.
area, because in some of these rural areas, we don't have sane nurses. We don't have competent people to deal with it, and counselors, crisis managers, and I mean, apparently you all have a good system, and it's a large area with some financial backing, but you get down into the little rural towns in Georgia.
No, and if you want to have equal access and equal justice across the zip codes, you've got to put that investment in. And so I don't want to see a setup where we're having to compete amongst each other for the crumbs. That's not what this is about. It's for all of us.
Well, I wish a lot more people could sit in and hear some of the things that we hear here and understand what goes on that they have no concept of. I mean, the general public doesn't have much concept of some of the things we've heard here today, and they certainly don't have any concept of what we heard yesterday in the prison system. So.
Well, again, on behalf of Mosaic and my other sisters and brothers in sexual assault, I appreciate your time and listening to me.
Well, we thank you for what you do and bringing the information to us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Child Advocacy Centers.
Good afternoon. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for having me here today and for your commitment to Georgia's children. I'm Carrie Viola-Brooke. I'm the Executive Director at Child Enrichment, where we have a Child Advocacy Center as well as a CASA program in the Greater Augusta area. But before I talk about any funding, I want to start with why Child Advocacy Centers exist in the first place. So right now, while we're talking, there's a 7-year-old walking through our Augusta office doors who has just disclosed that she's been sexually abused by an uncle, and she's about to get a forensic interview. And while we're also talking, in my Thompson office, there's a 14-year-old who is in the middle of her forensic interview after she was gang-facilitated child sex trafficked. So like many of the children we serve, those children are scared, confused, and unsure of who to trust. Without child advocacy centers, these children may have to tell their stories over and over again to places like law enforcement, DFACs, medical providers, repeating the worst experiences of their life multiple times. Today, because the CAC model exists in Georgia and is included in the child abuse protocol as where kids have to go to get interviewed, those children walk in a space that's designated for them. They tell their story once to a trained forensic interviewer while investigators are in the other room watching as a team. The interview protects the integrity of the investigation while protecting the child from further trauma. From there, therapy begins. The family receives support and the case moves forward stronger because the system is working together. That is what CACs do every single day in this state. Georgia has 53 child advocacy centers serving children in rural communities, urban centers, and suburban areas alike. Together, CACs provide forensic interviews, medical evaluations, mental health services, and advocacy for more than 21,000 children each year in Georgia. These are children who've experienced sexual abuse, physical abuse, child sex trafficking, witnessed to domestic violence, and witnessed to homicides in their community. 21,000 children each year equates to 60 children a day that need our services. It also equates to 40 elementary schools full of children that need dedicated services. That's 21,000 children who might otherwise fall through the cracks if they didn't go to a child advocacy center, and it's 21,000 opportunities for healing that could be lost if the system isn't fully funded. But I shouldn't just say children. 2 years ago, there was a law that changed that allowed forensic interviews to be admissible in court for adults with intellectual disabilities. As someone who has been conducting forensic interviews for over 15 years, I can't tell you how grateful I am for that law to change. I have sat down face to face with people in their 60s or 70s who are cognitively 8 years old, and I knew that their forensic interview in the past would not be able to be used, but now they are, which is another thing that child advocacy centers are providing services for law enforcement and the prosecution on. CACs are specialized. Not every medical provider can conduct a child abuse exam. Not every therapist can provide trauma-informed therapy. And the staff at CACs testify in court as experts in child abuse. Their training, experience, and credibility are critical to both the child's safety and achieving justice. Every professional at a CAC is dedicated to this work, and their expertise cannot be replaced overnight. At Child Enrichment, which is the center I run, we operate 2 of those 53 child advocacy centers, serving 9 counties across 3 judicial circuits. Our experience reflects the full picture of Georgia. We serve rural families where transportation is a barrier, urban families facing complex community challenges, and suburban families where they never imagined they would need services at a child advocacy center. Abuse does not look the same in every community, but that need for a coordinated trauma-informed response is the same everywhere. Last year, our Child Advocacy Center in Augusta conducted 607 forensic interviews and served 1,141 children. Our smaller Thompson office conducted 107 forensic interviews and served 193 children. Each number represents a child at a vulnerable moment, depending on a system that responds immediately and appropriately. The state of Georgia has rightly placed strict mandates and expectations on child advocacy centers, standards for training, response time, multidisciplinary coordination, and evidence-based treatment. These standards exist because the work matters that we do, and because children deserve consistency and quality no matter where they live in the state of Georgia. But meeting those expectations requires people. It requires trained forensic interviewers, therapists, victim advocates, and coordinators who are available when a child discloses, not weeks later, which is what would happen if funding gets cut. Therapy is critical. Trauma-informed counseling helps children process abuse, reduces long-term mental health impacts, and gives children a real chance to heal. Without trained therapists, without victim advocates, without staff available the moment a child discloses, children wait. Trauma grows, recovery slows, and investigations stall. Therapy is not optional. It is essential to breaking the cycle of abuse and helping children reclaim their lives. You've heard from other victim-serving agencies talk, and if we can't provide services to children when they've experienced, whether that's witnessing domestic violence, abuse themselves, they're gonna grow up not knowing that that is wrong. So therapy is so vital to providing for the kids that we work with. Over the past several years, CACs have relied on a combination of state and federal and local funding to meet these expectations. Nationally, the cost of serving children has increased significantly since 2020. With the National Child Advocacy Center, which is our national accrediting body, they just came out with last week some numbers that on average, it costs $2,579 per child to provide comprehensive services. Currently, CACs receive $67,000 each in state funding. Based on that national average of cost that came out last week, that accounts to the state funding 26 children each year. I remind you that my Augusta Child Advocacy Center serves 607 children, and my Thompson Child Advocacy serves 107 children. The gap between what is required of CACs and what is funded continues to widen. At the same time, CACs have expanded access to evidence-based services. We know that ARPA is ending and VOCA continues to decline. CACs across Georgia are facing difficult decisions about staffing and services that we will be able to provide. These are not abstract budget line items. They are positions allowing children to heal quickly. We know that this conversation is not about asking the state of Georgia to fix a federal funding issue. It's about recognizing that Georgia has built a system with clear mandates, accountability measures, and performance expectations, and ensuring that the system is funded in a way that allows it to succeed. CACs are not asking the state to step in. We're asking the state to step up and sustain the model that Georgia has already chosen to include child advocacy centers in the response to child abuse cases. I want to return to the children I talked about when we first started talking. Those children that are in forensic interviews right now in my facility, they don't know what ARPA means. They don't know what VOCA means. They don't even know what the House of Appropriations means. The only thing they know is something bad happened to them, and the people at my office are there to help them. Because Georgia chose that child advocacy center model, that child is only going to have to tell their story once. They're going to be believed by the staff that work with me. They're going to get connected to services, and the system is going to work. The decision made in rooms like this and buildings like this determine whether that experience remains the standard for kids in our state. This is not about expanding a system. It's about sustaining one that Georgia has already built, already mandated, and that children rely on every single day. When CACs are stable, children heal. Cases move forward, communities are stronger, and behind every funding decision is that child sitting in a forensic interview room, hoping adults will get it right. Thank you for your continued partnership and the support you have given in the past to all the victim-serving agencies. I don't envy positions you are in. I'm just telling you, as someone who still, to this day, sits down in rooms with kids who have experienced unimaginable, as adults, we need to step up to help them. So thank you.
Firsthand, I've been involved in some of these in my law enforcement career, and it's you know, we interviewed a guy who was accused of molesting his daughter one time, who was just barely a teenager, and up in the mountains. And I will never forget that we were questioning pretty hard, and he was just denying everything. And finally, he said, "She's my daughter. I can do with her like I want." And you know, it's just hard to imagine that there are people around that have that kind of philosophy. I mean, it's but they're out there. And, you know, we depend on people like you and all these people who testified here today to identify them and try and rectify the situation. But I keep saying it over and over again, but we don't have the money to fix everything. I mean, it's, you know, we deal with all the law enforcement agencies, the state law enforcement agencies, Department of Corrections, juvenile justice, and everybody, particularly those who have incarcerated people. The cost of maintaining them, providing them with health care, and I mean, it's just astronomical. I think last year we put $1.6 billion into the state prison system, and it's just a difficult job, and we try and do the best we can. Everybody here wants to do what they can, and certainly we advocate for children. I mean, just as everybody does. It's they can't protect themselves, and
exactly.
It's no questions.
Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you. Thank you for what you do. How about the accountability courts? I saw him dutifully sitting over there for a long time now. Have you solved our opioid crisis?
More on that in a moment.
I knew it was coming. I've been getting letters from advocates in my district. I don't know whether they've read all 800 pages of the bill, but some of them seem to have a pretty good bit of knowledge about what's going on.
Well, Chairman Hitchens and members of the committee, thank you for your time this afternoon. I'm Robert McBurney. I'm a Superior Court judge here in Fulton County, but I'm also an accountability court judge, something I've had the honor of doing for the last 10 years. And I'm here to share with you all the state of affairs with accountability courts and the Council of Accountability Courts, whose director is sitting next to me, Taylor Jones, and she'll be giving you more of the nuts and bolts about the specific budgetary requests. But executive summary first, things are going very well. We are growing. Participation rates were up 12% over the last year. We had over 9,000 participants in 2025, and that was an increase 11% the year before. So we're growing, and our budgetary ask is really driven by that growth and not by underfunding in the past. We have been, I believe, very reasonable fiscal stewards of the money that has been appropriated to the council. But what I want to talk about a little bit is the change that we are able to affect through accountability courts. As you probably know, it's not your first budget hearing, we work with high-risk, high-needs individuals who have been diagnosed at a minimum with a substance abuse disorder. They're addicted to crack, to an opiate, to marijuana, whatever it is. There's often a co-occurring mental health disorder as well. Someone who's become involved with the criminal justice system in a nonviolent way. We don't take someone who shot or stabbed someone into accountability court. But if you're committing crime and it's connected to your addiction, you break into a car to steal a backpack, to sell the laptop, to get your next fix, you ought to come to drug court. And we help bend that recidivism curve that historically we tried to treat by locking people up. And having been a judge now for almost 15 years, I can tell you, I've never had someone I sentenced to prison come to me later saying, thanks, that really changed my life. But I can tell you it is frequent that people who make it through, and not everyone does, we do not have a 1,000% batting average in accountability court, but people who graduate accountability court have fundamentally changed their lives. Over 80% of our graduates leave accountability court employed. They've become tax-paying members of our society again. They've reconnected with resources like health care benefits. They've reconnected with their family, which is in some ways the most fundamental resource they can have. They have stability, and we find that recidivism rates are cut by over 50%. If you don't get this treatment and you are someone who's suffering from a substance abuse disorder, over a 50% chance that you're going to recidivate, that you'll be arrested for a felony within the following 3 years. For our drug courts, it's now down to about 25% recidivism rate. Lower for our behavioral health treatment courts. And our veterans treatment courts, it's below 10%, meaning 9 out of 10 graduates of our veterans treatment court don't get in trouble with the law after they graduate, which is about as high a success rate as we could hope for. It's a big financial benefit to the state. It is much more expensive to lock someone up and leave them in jail to try to dry them out. When they get out, they just return to the community they had before without any support. That's why they were getting in trouble in the first place. So we're proud of the curves that we're bending person by person. I want to share a little bit about a recent graduation I had, just to take it to the ground level and to encourage. Each of you has accountability courts in your district, and I encourage you to go to a graduation, be it mental health court or drug court graduation, to see the impact that this program has on individuals. And that's the only way we measure it. It's person by person. It's not a magic potion where we say 50% of you are healed, go forth. Our most recent graduation, which is the end of January, just a few weeks ago, right down the street in Fulton County Government Center, one of my graduates is now a full-time employee at Chipotle. First full-time job he's ever had. And for the final 6 months he was in drug court, he had that job. His supervisor came to graduation to announce that he'll be promoted to manager now that he's off our supervision. We had someone who went to Georgia Tech, played football at Georgia Tech, was very badly injured, took painkillers, and then became an opiate addict because of that. And then it was a life of crime for about a decade. He is now a manager at an Amazon warehouse, owns his own house, and has a car. Complete turnaround. These are the real life changes that we see day after day in our accountability courts that are making the impact that you all invest in and that we encourage you to continue to invest in. The program is successful. We have 190 different tracks around the state. There are accountability courts in every circuit. Not every circuit has mental health and drug court and veterans, but we're expanding. Our next expansion, we hope, if the funding is there, is to give Rockdale County a veterans treatment court. They've seen the success rate that we have for veterans, and they want to expand and have that track available for those people who've served our country but are now struggling with addiction. And so we're hopeful we'll get funding for that. I do want to share with you a budgetary headwind that I worry about and that Ms. Jones worries about, and it ties into what you were just asking, Chairman. The governor, the way he has structured the budget, a very significant 2/3 of the budget for the Council of Accountability Courts is coming from the opioid settlement funds, which on paper seems like an ideal use of those funds. It's for drug treatment. Why not give it to drug courts who help people who are struggling with addiction? The problem that we're seeing, and our general counsel is working closely with the Attorney General and talking with others, unlike tobacco settlements, which were so loose we were able to build bridges and whatnot with tobacco funds, these funds appear to be limited to treating people with an active opiate addiction. That's less than 10% of our entire drug court population. In Fulton, it's less than 5%. The issue is out there, but it is not at the scope that we see it. And if the restrictions are as we read them, if we get $200,000 to Fulton County drug courts through that fund, we would need to limit that to treating opiate addicts. And we would not be able to spend all that money, and presumably that would be replacing funds that wouldn't be restricted, and we'd have less money to treat the remaining 95% of our treatment population. And that's true in almost every circuit. I mean, there's a higher rate of opiate addiction in different parts of the state, but on average, it's about 10% of the treatment population in each of the accountability courts. And so we flagged that for your attention. It's not a request to give us more money. We have that. We need more because we've been growing. And the way to fund that growth is to increase our budget. But that's proof of success. It's not a mismanagement. We have more participants, and we need to be able to afford the cost of treating them. But there is a concern that if we replace the general allocation with monies that flow from the opiate settlement, we may find ourselves handcuffed in a way where we could buy a Cadillac for each of the opiate addicts and then some, but we wouldn't be able to provide any treatment for everyone else. And I'm confident that wasn't the intention when the budget was proposed. It was a common sense, this is drug settlement money, let's send it to drug court. Where else would you send it? I mean, it's the right place. The lawyers and the judge out of Gwinnett County did a particularly effective job of locking the settlement money down so it doesn't get spent on highways and bridges. It has to be spent on treating opiate addicts. We're not that source if that's where the money's going to go. And so we may need to call upon you not to press the government for more money, the governor for more money, but a different source of that money. It would cripple our operations if that ends up being 2/3 of our budget. And that restriction continues to apply. We're looking for an opinion from the Attorney General that says, no, you're overreading it, you lawyers. But we may not get that opinion before the budget is set. And so that is our primary concern. We have 2 additional asks, one to fund the Rockdale Veterans Court and then our general growth, the success that we've had. But the biggest issue is, what is this beast, the opiate settlement funds, and can we actually use them in the way that I'm confident the governor's office intended, which is to provide treatment for everyone who's coming into the accountability courts. One last thing, just so we distinguish what the courts do versus the council. The council is the guiding body for all the courts. It ensures fidelity to treatment so that if you're being treated in Waycross, you're getting the same level of treatment as if you're being treated in Atlanta or in the Mountain Judicial Circuit, or in Augusta. And so they provide fundamental training to all the judges, all the practitioners. They also help grow when we need to add a track in a different circuit. So the budget for the Council of Accountability Court judges isn't simply what funds everything, but they're the steering mechanism that keeps us all on the right track. They provide the training, they shepherd grants to the individual courts, and they're that essential coordinating body to ensure that we all provide that same level of treatment around the state. Ms. Jones is going to talk more about some of the specific budgetary requests, but I'm happy to take questions if you have any based on what I've shared.
And I don't have any questions, except that was my query to begin with, because we've had these discussions, and just where, how can we use the money? And we've been waiting for somebody with legal authority to come to us, like the Attorney General, and tell us exactly what, because apparently the bill is 800 pages long, and nobody has been able to discern exactly what it means. But and I live in Savannah, and we have drug courts down there. I've been to 4 or 5 graduations, veterans drug courts, and I even went up to the Council of Accountability Judges conference this year, and
in Athens.
Right.
Thank you.
And sat with Governor Deal and your assistant here, and I worked for him when he was governor, and had a good rapport with him, and he's the father of this, and I don't know where. I don't know why we were so slow in coming to this, to make people accountable, and you know, we all do better when somebody's looking over our shoulder, and particularly those people that have no direction in life. I mean, and they get hooked on these opiates or drugs, and I'm an old Marine Vietnam veteran. I know that some of my friends had some real psychological problems when they came back. My grandson's a psychiatrist. He I don't think I have any problem, but he tells me I'm crazy, and so I don't know that he's a good psychiatrist. But it's really been a boon. I think I've just watched the courts and looked at the recidivism rates, and like I said, how do we not do this before? If you just come in and find somebody $1,000 and send them back out on the street, they go right back to doing what they were. If you have to come in every month and you have to be drug tested, or they make sure you're working, and I mean, people get on the right track, and it. I've said this before in the corrections. I was astonished. You know, there are about 300 academic courses, well, academic and technical courses in the Georgia prison system that inmates can volunteer for. For every dollar we spend on education in the prison system, we save $5 of recidivism in the first 3 years. So it's a great program. We appreciate what you do, and certainly your assistant here is very, very knowledgeable. Every time she comes and speaks to me, I pay close attention, because she knows it. And, we have any questions? Nobody wants to tackle a judge.
I'll just overrule you, but that's okay. But I'm going to have Ms. Jones add a little bit more just on the budget side, so we don't leave stones unturned.
No, I expected that.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge McBurney, and I'll be brief. He's spoken obviously at length about the use of opioid settlement funds for accountability courts and what that can mean, and that is on line 30.6.3 of your tracking document. But there are 2 items that we just wanted to bring to your attention today that are not in the governor's recommendation. We did pass out a copy of our most recent annual report and a PowerPoint that outlines and provides more context to the comments I'm about to make. But we had record growth last year, 12.3% growth compared to the year before. The outcomes are there, it's working. We served over 1,000 additional participants between the last 2 fiscal years. To help us keep up with that growth, at the average cost for us to serve them, which is $3,047 a year, at that 1,022 additional participants, that's $3,114,034 to help us keep up with growth. We wanted to make that number known to you today. And additionally, Judge McBurney has spoken about the Rockdale County's desire to start a veterans treatment court to add to their already existing drug court and mental health court to serve that population. And they have analyzed their data at the local level and looked at their jail population and see the need for that. And we're estimating that cost would be $93,602. So to help us expand, to serve those more veterans and to keep up with that growth, it's $3,207,636. I would be remiss if I didn't bring it to this committee's attention.
We're getting pretty accustomed to big numbers. But in conjunction with what you do in criminal justice reform, I mean, our prison system is busting at the seams. And I don't know what we would have done if we had to incarcerate all these people, because all the white collar criminals and a lot of drug criminals are going to accountability courts. Everybody we got in the state prison system now is pretty violent. And you know, we need to keep them separated from our society. But most of these people can be rehabbed with if we put them in the right direction or give them counseling or the help they need. And I think it's been a very positive experience and well worth the money. So.
I know we appreciate your time today and your overall support over the last many years.
Whereas,
thank you.
You know, we like to do things to have positive results, and you know, when you can see it. And I'm data driven, and when you see it, it's how can you not do what you can to have a continuation? It's
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
so
thank
much.
you. Thank you for what you do. Who we got next here? Georgia Firefighters Standards and Training. I've seen you sitting back there quietly with just enjoying all the testimony.
Yes, sir. Not really, because
No, well, nobody enjoys it, and it's
as a listener, I appreciate y'all's attentive listening to what all they have to deal with. So thank y'all for what y'all do daily. Mr. Chairman, committee members, thank y'all for allowing me to be here today. I have two things to encourage you right off the bat. Number one, I will really be brief this time. And number two, I'm not asking for a lot of money. So everybody else has, and they certainly have those needs. And we do a great work with Georgia Firefighter Standards and Training Council, and you committee members, and you especially Chairman and Mr. Representative McDonald, you already know the work we do at Standards and Training, but a lot of people didn't and a lot of people don't, and it's been my job over the last 4 years to educate people on what we do. And one thing that we have done when you talk about making a difference is we've gone from testing, like I said last time I was here, less than 3,000 tests graded, taken and graded in 2022 to over 17,000 per year now. So we're growing the fire service all throughout the state of Georgia, and we can do that better, I think. And y'all have been so gracious already to put in your budget recommendations for the starting cost for a new person for my agency. But if I have had the funding, which is the 107,000, I don't have my glasses on. Let me get those real quick because I can't see anything. $520 for the salary and the fringe for one new person. And I got it spelled out in my papers here. I actually would point out too, though, that I don't do a very good job selling as maybe as I should, and I'm okay with that, because the question that is asked is, what am I going to do if I don't get this person? And that is we're going to keep doing what we're doing now.
You got an extra car.
Yes,
you got
sir.
an extra car
Yes, sir.
that we put in the supplemental budget for him to drive. I hope that it comes through.
And we're very grateful. We're very grateful for that. And
Well, that covers the whole state, and that's what everybody wanted to begin with, and we feel good about that. That I've said this before, when I was the state's Homeland Security Director, I had no idea that 70% of the firefighters in the state were volunteers, and they had very little opportunity to become professional firefighters because they couldn't come to the Public Safety Training Center for weeks at a time to get the training. And now that you're taking it out there, not only do they feel better about their jobs, but they're better trained and they're better to respond. And I hope that's affected by our insurance rates.
Absolutely. And Mr. Chairman, one thing we're doing too in that regard as far as the volunteers go is that it has dropped. It's not 70% anymore. It's actually starting to balance out more because more counties are realizing that volunteers are hard to get, and they're actually paying more firefighters now. So it's more like a 60-40, maybe even 55-45, but it's changing a lot. But the one thing that we did is in legislation prior to last year, there was a volunteer council in there that wasn't funded, and nobody was ever appointed to it, and I never had the staff to run another separate council. But what we did when they took the volunteer council out is we agreed and wholeheartedly agreed to implement a volunteer committee to the council. We've already met on that with some good recommendations to make getting to the firefighter level, at least a suppression level, quicker and less troublesome. So we're already making strides with the volunteer committee, which we never did with the council because they were never in existence. So I appreciate y'all doing that because it is going to make it more.
I see it at home. You know, we have a mixed fire department now, but we have a director who's professional, and he also is the EMA director, and but we have several professionals that man the various fire departments around.
Yes,
but when the bell rings, the volunteers come too, and they work in conjunction with one another. And it's a much better system.
Absolutely, yes, sir. They all fight real fire. That's what I say all the time.
Yep.
Any questions? I mean, I don't mean to be so brief. I will certainly sit here and pontificate for an hour if I need to, but I don't think that would do any good. You know what
I know you used to be a politician, so we can let it. Y'all know he used to be the mayor of Warner Robins.
I'm recovering.
Yeah.
I'm a recovering politician now. So.
Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate what you do. So.
Thank y'all very much. Thank you very much. And I'm always around if you need me. Please give me a call. Thank y'all.
Post council. We're getting close.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, committee members. I'm Chris Harvey. I'm the Executive Director of Georgia Post, and this is going to be pretty much a rehash of what we did on the amended budget. First of all, I want to thank the committee for their favorable consideration of our amended year budget, and you'll see that we're essentially continuing the same theme, looking at 39.9.5. We've got increase for rent at our headquarters. I talked about that last time, some security enhancements that were done by the city. Instead of paying for those, that was reflected in a small rent increase that is still a very great bargain at just over $6 a square foot. 39.9.6 is provide funds for security upgrades, $22,960. This is a system similar to what they use at the Capitol. It's a convergence system, and it's essentially a panic button system that will allow everyone in the office to be aware if there's an incident. I shared with you last time pictures of an assault that happened in June of last year of two of our investigators. We were actually very fortunate that it happened when it did, because it happened on a Monday morning around lunchtime when our office was pretty full and people actually witnessed it. If that happened on a Thursday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, sitting in my office, I wouldn't have known that it was going on. So this is going to allow everyone in the office to have a panic button that they can wear on like a lanyard type thing, and would activate everyone. It's also something that can be taken with us. It's not being integrated into the building, so if our office were to move at some point, we could move that with us. And then the last item. Photos with everybody or just me? I gave them to everybody. Okay. I've got more, but I think if anybody didn't see them, two of our female investigators were assaulted. One of them was attempted to be disarmed by the perpetrator, who's at the time, I guess technically still is a certified officer. He's suspended now.
He was only on probation then, though.
He was only on probation, so there were many people that have lost a lot more than he had, and he took matters into his own hands, and is, as I mentioned last time, is now pending felony charges in Cobb County. So I think that's a reasonable system that will ensure the safety of the people that work in our office, and also visitors that come to our office. And the last item, 39.9.7, is the electronic management system that I talked about, the box.com, at $15,587. I brought you last time a couple examples of files and how large they were. I just want to share briefly the number of investigations that we do. In 2025, we opened 1,454 investigations, and we closed 2,536 investigations. Each one of those is a file, and each one of those is between this thick and this thick, and we're talking about hundreds and thousands of pages of documents that we would, this box.com system would allow us to store all electronically, secure, easy to share. I think it would improve our efficiency. It would probably decrease our travel costs, fuel costs, and things like that, because we could do so much remotely. Law enforcement agencies could upload their videos to our system. We wouldn't have to worry about all these different proprietary software systems that different agencies use. It's just uploaded directly. It's been tried in our office, met with very favorable reviews. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Anybody got any? I got one.
Yes, sir.
I've been approached by several sheriffs, some called, some in person, about the limited purpose academies.
Yes, sir.
They're advocating for them to try and train their jail officers who get very little training, and we all reap the rewards for that. And I don't know whether you oversee the
Yes,
jailers.
sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
They're bringing contraband in and getting involved in sexual activity with prisoners, and it's I don't know what these offer, but certainly if it's an educational.
I'll just briefly describe them. They were accepted by the council, I think, last year, and what they allow is for primarily sheriff's departments, but they could be police departments too. They're police academies that are limited to basic jail officer, basic communication officer, and forensic investigator. There has been an issue since the last meeting about the scope of them. And at the council meeting in March, I'm presenting a policy for the council to consider that will provide a little bit more clarity as to what they can do. So we are addressing that issue. They've been very successful. I think they're very popular. But I think we need to put a little bit more clarity to what they're allowed to do. Because, of course, our staff has to monitor and audit and inspect these, and so far, everyone that has applied has been accepted, and we hope to continue the program, but I think it needs a little bit more definition.
Well, I just think that that's one of the sore spots in our criminal justice system. Sometimes we hire jailers that, just like corrections officers, at the lowest amount of money that we can possibly get by with, and then we expect them to do a great job and be up and forthright in their activities, and sometimes that doesn't happen. And
well, and this also allows the local sheriff's department, sheriff's office to train them specifically in their facility. The other issue that I think the other problem that limited purpose academies solve is that we had sheriff's agencies and sheriff's offices that were hiring people, and then the wait for training was so long that they were then leaving and never getting hired, and the turnover is high, as you're aware, similar to DOC. So I think they've been 99% positive, and like I said, to put a little bit more definition around them, I think will satisfy almost everyone. I'm not sure I can ever satisfy everyone, but
well, you can't ever satisfy all the sheriffs. But I appreciate it. I just heard about it and was wondering what happened.
Yeah, they're successful, and it will continue, and it will continue to expand.
Well, when I was on post council, we had nothing like that. Of course, I've been going for 15, 16 years, but
60.
I guess I left in 2012. So, but I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
No questions.
Thank you.
And I just got to say, I've been there. I was on there 12 years, and these cases are emotional. A lot of them. Law enforcement officers have been involved to have jobs for 12, 15, 18 years, and they're all of a sudden going to lose their certification because of something that they've done, and rightfully so. But they become very, very emotional, and you got to be very careful with them.
That's correct, and that's. We think this is a reasonable approach.
Oh, yeah. Well, it started when I was there. They started making them all come through the magnetometers to make sure they weren't carrying weapons. And, I instituted a policy when I was Commissioner of Public Safety. Anybody coming in for disciplinary here, and their supervisor that came with them would make sure that they didn't bring their weapon with them.
Yes, sir.
So,
thank you.
Sure. And I guess the one we've been looking for, Georgia Public Safety Training Center. Is that the last one? Yep. Well, you got an hour and 30 minutes.
We can take it on. Is that what I'm saying, sir? Everybody got some ugly looks just then, so I won't take all of it. Well, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us today. I'll start off by, first let me start off by introducing Cindy Jones. She's my comptroller, so she keeps me straight, especially at these presentations. So, the question you asked about posting the jail school, I want you to know that I support that very much. Some of the issues that we were having around the state is we've got 2 instructors that conduct that training statewide. And so when you've got a rural sheriff that hires an individual and we've just started the school and they're a week late getting them in, they might have to wait 12 weeks to get that individual in another offering. So,
well, it's just important for them to get some training, and you just take somebody off the street and throw them in there and say you're a jail officer, and bad things happen. It's it's the responsibility of the hiring authority for not having them trained properly, and this gives them an opportunity to do it locally and not have to go travel and have them gone for a week or 2 or whatever it takes to get it done. I mean, it's an ordeal, and I know how crowded the Public Safety Training Center is and how hard it is to get into any kind of class anymore. So,
yes, sir. I just want to start off with that, just to reiterate that is a positive program and needed around the state to get those individuals trained in a timely manner. So number one, I'll skip the statewide changes and go straight to 39.1.4. That is an ask of $831,134. So an academy in the metro Atlanta that was ran by the Cobb County Sheriff's Department that was known as North Central, that was funded years ago as a regional academy, closed abruptly.
This is going to be in the same facility with Post Council?
That is correct.
Yeah.
So currently we are secured on the other end of the building there. So that created really an instant shortfall to be able to train public safety professionals in the metro Atlanta area that don't have their own academy. So we were able to stand up a short-term academy to get one session going, but we did that with internal funds and actually relocated staff from other academies to sustain, but we just can't sustain that. So this request is to open that academy as a full-time academy that would be sufficient as the rest of our academies. Next is 3 separate requests, and I'll sum them together, but they're individual requests, 39.10.5, 6, and 7. So we currently are on 3 college campuses, and within our contract, that lease agreement goes up for that space that we lease. So if you look at that, that's what those individual requests are, is the increase in those lease agreements to occupy that space. 2 of them went up substantially, and if you look at the square footage, it went up substantially, and that's not because we asked for additional square footage. That's because the school asked us to move location because apparently what we were in was prime real estate that they wanted back, so they moved us somewhere else. So that's some of the cost as well. And then there's 2 things that I'm going to ask that's not on the book. Number one is in the amended budget, you all approved a statewide radio system. That's something we've been trying to participate in for years because our request is our law enforcement division has went up substantially over the last few years, but we had no means to communicate when we participated with statewide activities. So you did add that or approved to add that to the amended budget. What didn't get added was the annual reoccurring cost. So that was the upfront cost for the radios and that initial system. So the reoccurring cost of that's just going to be shy of $100,000, $97,500, and that's for the service agreements that we would need to maintain that service throughout the rest of the year to maintain that radio system. And next, by mentioning that, the statewide law enforcement retirement system that's...
I got that on my list.
Yes, sir. So that's been presented, so we got left out of that. And how we got left out is it was simply... my understanding is they've done a search on job codes and job applications. Well, ours asked for a post-certified instructor. So it circumvented being post-certified. Well, a lot of people don't understand it's very difficult to be a post-certified instructor if you're not a post-certified law enforcement officer. So that's how we got left out. We have now cleaned some of that up on our end, that it shows they're post-certified law enforcement officers. We would not be asking for a statewide radio system to participate if we didn't. And 2 years ago, this body and the governor signed to allow us to have statewide jurisdiction. So, if you get into the debate if we're a statewide law enforcement agency, now our main job is instructors, but we get called
Well,
on
we
a
wondered why
regular basis.
we wondered why you'd been left out, and
Yes.
we had a similar occurrence. The guy from Post has left, but a couple of years ago, when they gave law enforcement officers across the state a raise, Post got left out for the same reason, because whoever was doing the computer business didn't realize that Post was that they had certified law enforcement officers. So, and we rectified that.
To hire and retain people that wasn't post-certified to train the other
Yeah.
people that's becoming post-certified in the state.
Yep.
We got left out of the race in 2025.
They didn't get the Leo raise then.
Huh?
They didn't get it in 25.
Yeah,
We
we've
get-
got it every other time, but 25, they left us out.
Well, y'all overpaid already, aren't you?
I think we'll have a difficult time when you go back to look at that metro.
Oh, I know,
We'll have a
I know.
difficult time to hire
Well, you've
instructors.
sat through all this, you know, my God, everybody's
Yes, sir.
got issues, and we wish we had the ability to correct them all, but I think something like that we can correct, but some of the issues we brought forward today, we just don't have the ability to provide the money for everything.
Yes, sir.
It's like your checking account, you know. You better have the money in the bank before you write that check. So, otherwise you got some significant problems. So, any questions? Okay. Oh my gracious. Chairman Saints.
Figured we were going too fast, Mr. Chairman.
Do what?
I want to ask a question, but I do want to appreciate the director. We've had some hurdles that the director has been very helpful to our local agencies in getting those folks trained down there, and I think created a regional academy with no additional cost. So thank you for that.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your comments.
Well, that's everybody we have scheduled. I didn't hand out a sheet for, do we have anybody in here? Well, come on up.
Thank you.
You sat here for a couple hours listening to all this.
You want me to sit here? I know.
Just tell us who you are and what you're about.
Risked my mental health hearing all those stories. So
Oh, it's bad news.
Yeah.
I wish everybody knew exactly what went on, and
yeah, and I appreciate the
they
work
wouldn't
that
be
you
so
guys are
negative,
doing.
I think, about paying taxes when they see what, you know, we try and help those that can't help themselves.
Amen. I hear you on that. My name is Heather Hallett, and I'm with Georgia Majority for Gun Safety. And I've probably spoken with many of you about this effort. So we are asking for a budget request for a secure firearm storage education campaign, basically a PSA campaign. And I can be pretty quick. Firearms is a leading cause of death for children in Georgia. We know that unsecured firearms are a driver of teenage suicide, of accidental shootings. Georgia was the #1 leader across the country. We had more accidental child shootings of, either themselves or somebody else in their household, and that's all from unsecured firearms. So this is really, it's $1 million request, but honestly, any money that the state can start to invest in just informing the public about the importance of keeping their firearms secured. There was a study out of the University of Michigan that said that if even half of the households that are not practicing secure storage would adopt secure storage practices, that would cut down on childhood firearm injury and death by 50%. In the state of Georgia, that's hundreds of kids. And we've listened to a lot of sad stories today. All it takes is one conversation with a parent who has lost a child to either suicide or an accidental shooting to understand the impact that has. These are preventable deaths and injuries, and particularly when we're talking about our children. This request is, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's plenty of messaging already out there. Recently, there was a ad buy in Georgia, messaging that is targeted towards firearm owners because it's unsecured firearms, right? So those are the people that we need to target. There's already messaging out there, and it really is just an effort to, inform even the signs like on the highway. If it's hot out, you tell people not to leave their dogs in the car, right? This is just make sure, especially if you have kids in your home, make sure your firearms are secured. And I'm just going to make this comment about the efficacy, like where we're spending our tax dollars, because I've heard all of the stories, and I know that there's not enough money for everything. But last week I was in the House Education, some subcommittee, talking about the effort to put weapons detectors in every single, all of, the 2,300 public schools throughout Georgia. The research on that does not say that putting in weapons detectors in all of the schools is actually going to accomplish the goal of decreasing school shootings. What does decrease school shootings is secure firearm storage practices. And so we're really just trying to drive behavior change. And I would just ask for your consideration that we fund this in the budget. There are, in the Senate, there is a bill to establish a firearm safety program in all of K-12 schools. And in order to do that well, the way Tennessee has done it is it's been a collaboration between the Departments of Education, Public Safety, and their equivalent of the Department of Natural Resources. So creating a collaboration, I've spoken with the Department of Public Safety. They have people who are already doing, basically marketing. So it's really just getting that message out. It doesn't have to be flashy. Really we could do this at a minimal budget request, and this would be a much more effective use of taxpayer funds than putting weapons detectors in every single school throughout Georgia, and would probably, again, if we can just get half of the families, and I know a lot of times people think, oh, those are just irresponsible people. They're people who just need some education around the risks of having unsecured firearms in the home and what happens, what risks you're putting your family at. So would just appreciate your consideration, and I would love to partner in creating this collaboration and moving Georgia forward. We don't want to lead the nation again next year in accidental shootings by children. So this is a way to tackle that problem, and I appreciate your time. Thanks for letting me close out.
Anybody in questions?
How many cases last year, how many gun accidents do we have at home?
So in terms, how many gun accidents by children?
Yeah.
So this is, and again, this is a small, it's basically media reported. So it's called the Not an Accident Index. And I don't have the number off the top of my head, but it was Georgia, Texas, and I'm trying to remember who came in behind us. And these are, I don't think part of the problem is that it's hard to track, because if somebody doesn't die, right? And you have a 2-year-old, and that a lot of the cases are literally like 2, 4, 6-year-olds where they have accidentally shot, the dog, or, that's not even going to be reported. When a child has a gun and either kills or injures somebody else, so they have to go, seek services, that's the only time it's going to be reported. So I think it's on the order of like 20. But Georgia led the country.
I understand. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your passion about this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. All right, you guys have a good rest of your day. And
Well, thank you. We appreciate what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate your time.
Ian. Okay, does the High Sheriff want to speak?
I'm just here learning about the legislative process, sir.
Well, it's about time you got educated.
I've been here 4 years. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to catch up.
have her own group. Okay, if that's it, we're adjourned. Some of them out the door already.